Okay. Thank you. I would now like to call the May 26, 2026 Longmont City Council regular session to order. The live stream of this meeting can be viewed at the city's YouTube channel, longmontpublicmedia.org/watch, or on Comcast channels 8 or 880. We do have Councilmember Prieto virtually. She has requested remote participation this evening, and I need a motion to suspend the rules of procedure 25.2A2 to allow for her to participate without having obtained permission at a prior meeting. Okay, so we have a motion. It was made by Councilmember Chris, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so that carries. Well, we don't have Prieto on yet, so that carries unanimously with the voting people. Okay, so now we are on to roll call.
Mayor Hidalgo Farfel?
Present.
Can you turn on my microphone, please?
Oh, wait. Can you hear me? Oh, I don't see you on here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Mayor Hidalgo Faring?
Present.
Councilmember Christ?
Present.
Councilmember Kalkoffer?
Present.
Councilmember Marsing? Here. Councilmember McCoy?
Present.
Councilmember Popkin?
Present.
Councilmember Prieto?
Okay, I don't see anyone on her screen. She does have permission to be here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Okay, well, we'll just carry on. Okay, so let's go ahead and go with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and for the record, I see Councilmember Prieto on the screen. Okay, so we are now on chair reminder to the public. In accordance with the rules of procedure, the rules for providing public comment are as follows. Only Longmont residents and employees of the city of Longmont may speak during first call public invited to be heard. You must provide your address at the sign-up sheet before the meeting, or I will not call your name. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone may speak on second reading, public hearing item, and you are asked to add your name to the speaker list for the specific item before the meeting. Anyone may speak during final call public invited to be heard. Members of the audience shall refrain from disruptive, vulgar, or abusive language, applause, heckling, or other actions that interfere with the orderly function of the council. Let's look at the approval of the May 12th, 2026 regular session minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? So that has been made by Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, and that has been seconded by Councilmember Marsing. Councilmember Chris, do you have a question or correction on the minutes?
Yes. I discussed this with Dawn earlier. On page 17 of the packet, or page 12 of the minutes, it's listed my comments as being just feasibility, but after pushback from or clarification from Councilor Marsing and Councilor Popkin, I clarified that it was financial feasibility that I was looking for. So I'd like to adjust the minutes to reflect that clarification.
Okay. Do you have that, Elizabeth? Okay, great. Okay, so can we, let's go ahead and vote on the minutes as amended. Okay, and I see Popkin with his finger in the affirmative. So, very good. So that carries unanimously. We are now on to Agenda revisions and submission of documents and motions to direct the city manager to add agenda items to future agendas. Are there any revisions first for our current agenda? Are we
Not
good?
from the clerk's office.
Great, thank
Mayor.
you. And so now on to council. Do we have any motions from the council? It looks like Councilmember Prieto, go ahead.
No motions, Mayor. I just have a request to attend my next two council meetings.
Virtually?
Sorry, virtually, yes. And that
Yes.
would be the June 2nd and June 9th meeting. I had ACL surgery, and so I'm unable to be there seated for an extended period of time without having my leg elevated.
Okay, yeah. So we have a motion on the table. Is there anyone who would second to, okay, so that has been seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. And then is this in regard to virtual attendance? Okay. Is it your virtual attendance? We'll vote on this first. It has to be separate. Yep. So we'll hold off for right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on this to approve Councilmember Prieto's virtual attendance on the 2nd and 9th city council meeting as she recovers from surgery. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. It was Councilmember Prieto made the request, and it was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, and then you want to vote. No worries. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Now, Councilmember Christ, are you ready?
Thank you, Mayor. I may need to attend virtually on June 30th. May I, please?
Do we have a second for that? Second. Okay, so the motion to, for Councilmember Christ to possibly, do you know for sure, or is it possibility?
We are going back to the surgeons this week, so I
Okay.
will know after that.
You'll know after that, okay. So then, let's go ahead and we'll just have that discussion and approved, so just in case. So
Thank you.
June 30th. Okay, and that motion was made by Councilmember Chris, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Let's go ahead and vote.
Still waiting for dates to come.
Okay, no, that's fine, great. And so that carries unanimously. And now I actually have a couple of motions to make to direct staff. And if you all had had a chance to look, hopefully you all did, the ranked choice voting survey that was at the bottom in our appendix of informational items. And so looking at that it would cost, so the poll was already done, there was information on the results of the poll, targeting voters who have traditionally voted in municipal elections. And if council is accepting of that data, rather than spending or investing another $5,000 to $7,000 on an additional poll, if council, just kind of gives me a thumbs up, or if anybody doesn't have any, opposition to this, I would like to move to direct staff to bring back an ordinance at the council's next regular session, referring a ballot measure on November 3rd, 2026, to amend the city council's, the city charter, providing for the use of ranked choice voting or ranked voting methods to future mayor and other members of Longmont City Council. And that such amendments specifically provide for the use of instant runoff, single winner form of ranked choice voting in future single winner elections, and in a single transferable vote method for a multi-winner ranked choice voting. It's hefty, but, okay, do I have a second for that? Second. Okay, so that has been seconded by Councilmember Marcin. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote in opposition of this, not because I'm against ranked choice voting. I think that we should designate these sort of things that we do when we put things on the ballot to specifically us having a ballot, having a deed at the end of it with, let's say, for like the library or for a recreation center. At the end, we are going to have a physical piece of property. The other part is if it's going to be for, water or, safety or some sort of thing like that, where it's everybody in the community feels that they would have some sort of benefit, like expanding, trying to make sure that we have adequate funds for our police and fire and EMTs, that sort of thing. And so I also feel that there's benefit to any organization to going out there and getting those signatures. I think it helps with the education process, and I think that this is still up for debate in regards to what it actually, if it actually does bring more democracy there. I also feel like there's a component here that we're missing. We've had this issue about how it doesn't necessarily fit well with our current council makeup, and I think that if we really want this to happen, we should probably consider a change to how many members are on our city council, so that we have equal, a fourth at-large district, or a fourth position that's at large, and a fourth ward that would allow for equal on each side without having to mess around with years of service or terms or anything like that. I think there's some benefit to that, and I think the community would appreciate that. We have enough seats at the dais as it sits right now to actually accommodate that. But that's just my feeling about this, and I think we should take this into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you bringing this forward. I know this has been a long time in the making for a lot of different folks. Question, and it may be a question for you or a question for staff, because I'm supportive, but I have a little concern about the STV, the single transferable vote method language, because under our current regulations in the state of Colorado, a single transferable vote is not allowed under current state law. I would be concerned that, and that could change in the future. We could get a bill run this session. I would be concerned about us tying ourselves to something legally that we can't actually do from a regulatory perspective. So I would be curious about whether we could maybe generalize some of this language a little bit to make it, to give us maybe in terms of a maybe it's a zero reading potentially, so that we can say, okay, we actually know what the program is. We can have some of the broader conversations, to Mayor Pro Tem's point, about cycles, et cetera, because saying we're for ranked choice voting, I'm on board. I think I'm a little wondering about whether we can do some of the process stuff inside that conversation on firsts or not. And,
Okay, yeah.
and that's my only hang up, is that specific language, specifically when it comes to single transferable vote, since the state says we can't do that right now.
Yeah, and I know that there was some policy kind of going out there, and so initially when I had written, when I had looked at this, and it was under the belief that we were going to be able to, by the time that it came to us,
Yeah.
it came about, that it would be permissible.
Yeah.
So, but I am willing to amend the language or put less constraints around the transferable vote method,
I guess it would,
And-
yeah.
but leave that open.
Yeah, I guess I
So-
would prefer it if we didn't necessarily tie staff to say you have to bring back this language with this specific voting method in it. If we left it a little bit more open-ended, and I see Harold put his microphone on, which tells me he has. No, you don't
No,
have a
you
thought.
don't.
Okay,
No,
all right.
he's got nothing to
Okay,
say.
cool.
So this is totally on
Us,
us.
yeah.
Because we are,
Yeah.
like, when we look at policy, this is going to be our work that we put into
Yeah.
it. This is going to be our time. We'll have, of course, legal come back and look at some language for us to decide upon. but it's really in our court as we decide, the policy aspect and any kind of charter or
So-
ordinance change on this.
So I guess I'm all on board with referral and drafting the ordinance. I think maybe it is a 0 reading item, but I know we have a timeline on that, and I know that messes with staff's work plan a little bit, and I will turn my mic off on that just so we can work through some of the kinks of
Okay.
making sure that the ordinance comes back with what you're intending and what I think I'm intending.
Okay, so would it work, Eugene or Harold, to bring it back in a 0 reading so we could have open discussion on this particular topic? Just say it.
Well, we're thinking, so,
Just get it out, yeah.
so June 9th, I think at this
Yeah.
point, we're projecting the Phase 2 development agreements with Front Range Community College
Yeah.
and Project Wolf, so, or just all of that. So that's pressing us a little bit on time. I don't know that we would come back with an ordinance per se, more of a general conversation with different options that you all could work through. And then maybe give us some, a clearer direction is what you're looking at, because
Okay.
I think drafting an ordinance without having that clarity
Yeah,
can become difficult. And it may
Yeah.
just be a general conversation to work you through the different components and get policy direction.
okay.
June's turning into a bit of a beast right now, because we have a lot of movement. What's the next meeting, Eugene? It's the...
The second is a study session.
We could probably, and Tim's out this week. He's our
Okay.
election guy. I would probably recommend just doing a general conversation, of which, Don, I know we sketched out some broad concepts.
Yes.
And if we can, dig down a little bit in that, that'll give Eugene more clarity
Okay,
in terms of what he needs to draft in terms of the first run at an ordinance. I think if we have a little bit of flexibility in June, that may help us.
yes,
We'll try to bring it as soon as we can,
okay.
but we need to look at some of these meetings.
Okay, yeah, and we'll talk tomorrow
Yep.
as well. So then, it wouldn't necessarily, so the motion on the table is to direct staff, whoops, sorry, I'm done. Yeah, my time is up. Okay, let's vote. To direct staff to, rather than bring back an ordinance, but just to add to a future general session item to discuss referring an amendment to the November 3rd, 2026 meeting. Councilmember Christ, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a rather interesting discussion with a political science professor who walked me through this whole process. And his take was, at the end of the day, it actually encourages people not to vote as often. Initially, they vote more, but then they stop voting. And we had a discussion about that, too, as to why. And they have a little more like long-term data, not just a survey of interest. So if we're going to bring it back for more discussion, it would be nice to have him, because he would have a really comprehensive point of view and could explain it pretty well to the public as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Popkin and then Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you bringing this forward. I also was, considering we wouldn't be able to get a statistically significant survey from staff either in the time frame, this gave me a few initial data points that allowed us to kind of, I think, build on. And again, for our reminder and for the public's, we're not deciding on this as a policy. We're deciding whether to refer this to the ballot. And so I think that's really important for us to keep in mind as we're going forward here. My question for you, Mayor, was actually more of a process question here. And I appreciate the discussion that you already had with Councilmember Marcin. So maybe it's a question for you and or Harold here. In the past, for ballot referrals, do those happen individually, kind of ad hoc? Is there a meeting that happens kind of in the lead up to an election? This is my first kind of full time going through this process, where we discuss everything that we might be referring to the ballot. And I guess where I'm going with that is, if we have multiple things that might be going to the ballot, somewhat building on Councilmember McCoy's point here, like, how do we figure out the priority? And I think we all saw what happened and can remember what happened back in 2023 when many things went to the ballot and many things didn't pass. And without casting my own subjective judgment as to which things should have there, I think the choices that we put to people and the length of the ballot ultimately does matter.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I wanted to just raise here is, maybe you and I might think that this is a top priority, and then we just had the public safety conversation last week, and maybe something else changes. And so I'm just curious, what's the drop dead deadline for things being referred to the ballot, and can we maybe be a little bit of tactical here in how we have the conversation about the topics that do get referred to the ballot, or at least this council chooses to refer to the ballot, recognizing that citizens can petition to have their own topics too.
Yeah, they can.
So what's the process like there, and is there a way where we can have hey, the deadline for referral is X date, and so 2 meetings before that, we're going to make sure that this is the meeting where all of our general business discusses ballot items that council might want to refer.
Yeah. Traditionally, what I've seen on council is things were just brought up either by council members or discussed with staff. We've come to a consensus that this is something we want to move forward on. I've just seen things thrown out there. So, Harold, you have more of a historical.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to probably rely on Eugene, pre-me. So in terms of ballot items, typically from a staff perspective, we'll bring items related to bond issuances and things like that. So that's where we drive it. In terms of the other items that I've been involved with, it's really been council direction in terms of the first one that I remember was the first run at the recreation center, which was a ice and recreation facility. And then the second one was council moving forward on where we had the Performing Arts Center, the recreation center, and what was the third one?
The
Library. So the three, but those were council driven.
So these don't have where we're not raising taxes, just like the open space ballot measure that we have voted on. So the fiscal impact to the taxpayer it will not occur if ranked choice voting comes into effect. We're not looking to raise taxes or in that regard.
Right, Mayor, and I think what I'm just trying to get at is procedurally, even if there isn't a compounding taxation effect that comes here, there is a ballot length and prioritization impact there. And so I think I would just, as we go forward with this potential proposal, and I will be supporting this, but as we go forward with this proposal and potential other items, I'm wondering if we can think a little bit more
strategically.
perhaps beyond, strategically is, but when we actually have that conversation as council is how many of these ballot measures are we actually going to refer to the ballot?
That's good.
And what's the timing for that?
No, I'd be willing to do that, and that would be a great pre-session item for us to discuss. So.
Yeah, whatever format makes the most sense to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Marcy.
Thank you, Mayor, and I know this is my second. I just wanted to circle back to kind of where you and I's conversation wrapped up, because I appreciated hearing from staff that we can kind of, give you the policy, then operationalize it. I think within the context of that operational process, I would personally prefer, we've discussed it over and over again. I think we've had the clerk's office in here. We've had the discussion. I think I would prefer to see the discussion be at this point, to the spirit of your motion, aimed with a policy direction in mind, which is the intent to refer.
Yes.
Rather than
yes.
just bring it back and let's talk about it more.
No.
Okay.
I would want to have specific discussion on ballot measures.
Great.
There was a second charter amendment consideration that I was going to bring up, but I think it would be best to hold off for if this first one is passed, for us to have this general discussion, then we can start looking at the policy pieces during that discussion time.
Yeah, I think from a staff perspective, we'd want a general discussion or a discussion that leads to specific points that you want us to put into an ordinance. So we're going to be pulling for specific direction in that conversation.
Okay, and so what I would like, to have that instant runoff for the single winner, but also look at the possibility of even realigning how we're staggered, where wards would be on one side, on one round, and then at-large would be on another. So we'd have the 3 wards during one election with mayor, and then have 3 at-large with the mayor. So looking at how we could work in our charter amendments to allow for that staggering. And we don't have to decide tonight if we want to go in that direction or not, but just to be able to have that discussion and say, is this the best course of action?
Just a quick question for staff.
Yes,
It's okay.
yeah.
Just confirming that you're going to take, if this motion were to pass, and with language as is, what have you, if this motion were to pass, you're taking that firmly as council is intending to refer, come back with what you need to operationalize that. Just confirming in my own mind that you wouldn't then want to see council later say, actually, we don't want to refer. Like we're doing this vote once.
Well, no,
The vote
you will have to vote.
to send it. Yeah, then. Yeah.
So the first conversation will be, what do you want in the ordinance? Then they will craft the ordinance, and then you will have to vote on that ordinance. And I have no clue what just happened.
Eugene just lost his mic. No comments, Mayor.
No comments, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Harold. I appreciate that.
Okay, he said I said it, so.
Okay, very good. So, seeing no one else, let's go ahead and vote.
There you go.
Yeah, it shows that Councilmember Prieto, is the voting popped up on your screen? Okay.
Yeah, my apologies. I was
Okay.
just reading through the
Oh,
language.
no, you're fine.
It's a lot.
It was a lot. I just wanted to make sure it was popped up on your screener. Okay, so that motion carries 5-2 with Council Members Christ and Mayor Pro Tem McCoy in opposition. Seeing no one else for other items, let's move on. City Manager report. Does the city manager have a report? No report. Oh, now you're,
report, Mayor,
yeah, I
Council.
got you. Thank you. And now we're on to special reports and presentations, a presentation of updated investment strategy and policy recommendations. And Teresa Malloy, I'd like to invite you down to introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Teresa Malloy, Chief Financial Officer. And we recently went out to RFP for a investment consultant, investment advisor, as we had reached the end of our allowable contract extensions on our current contract. Government Portfolio Advisors won that award, and they are here tonight to present some information to you. For the past several months, we've been working through a transition for our non-pension investments to a portfolio under GPA's umbrella. They've made several recommendations on investment strategy changes. And in addition, on your consent agenda, item 9C is a resolution for a policy update. The last investment policy was adopted by council back in October of 2023. So this will be the update since that time. And I guess with that, I'm going to introduce then Deanne Woodring, the president of GPA, and Mitch Henke, Chief Operating Officer and Chief Compliance Officer. And as I mentioned, they have a brief presentation for you that will speak to both the investment strategy changes that they're proposing as well as the policy updates. And then we'll open it up for discussion. So let me pull up their presentation here.
Oh, no, thank you.
I can help you with that. I can grab
Oh, there you are. I will just let you all, here, I think this one probably works better.
Good evening. As Teresa mentioned, I'm Deanne Woodring, President and Founder.
Doesn't seem like it's working. It's not working.
Yeah.
Take me forward. Okay, good evening. I'm Deanne Woodring, President and Founder of Government Portfolio Advisors. It is a privilege to be here with you today. My favorite thing is to be in front of council. I love to address your issues and questions and anything going on with the investment portfolio. Our first slide just covers the background on Government Portfolio Advisors. We currently operate in 11 different states. We manage over $35.5 billion in public fund assets, and that's all we do is separately manage assets for local governments. We have 74 clients, so we're not massively spreading ourselves and across a big number of accounts. We're very isolated to the needs of our clients and needs of City of Longmont. And we have over 20 years of experience within our client profile. I've been in the business for 40 years, and I'm very astute and very aligned to building a service model that aligns our objectives to your objectives and what you're doing. So we're within partnership with you and here to meet the needs that you have. 3 of our advisors have CFA charter holder high criteria for investment portfolio management expertise. We're an SEC registered firm, and we always work in a fiduciary capacity, so we're working in your best interest on a contract. Mitch is going to cover some of the steps we've done so far.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure to working with the city so far. We entered into contract with the City of Longmont at the end of the year, and over the our first few months of the year as the incumbent's contract was phasing out, we worked very closely with Teresa, Deanne, and staff to really do a thorough review of the city's finances, the investment portfolio, look back at historical trends for the changes in balance on a month-to-month basis, the overall balance changes of the firm, of the city, organizational goals, preferences, your investment policy. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is, even though we only manage really the investment core portfolio, that's kind of what we've been hired for to do. We also advise and kind of manage that portfolio by looking at the totality of the city's assets. So we're also looking at your liquidity pools that provide your overnight liquidity, the balances therein, and make sure that whatever we're recommending really fits well and is cohesive with all of the assets for your operational or general funds. And so I just wanted to highlight a few key recommendations that we made in shifting some of the focus within the city. And the first one is to really take a look at the overnight liquidity balances. Those had grown as we looked at just kind of the city's profile from kind of the second half of 2025 through when we took over. Those balances had grown, pretty drastically, and part of that was just tied to not reinvesting some of the maturities that had come due in that investment core portfolio. And so the first step is, especially when we have a nice yield curve that is giving us good yield to invest out further, is really right-sizing that investment core by transferring $30 million from those overnight pools into the longer-term investments. The second thing was to implement a true benchmark for the city. You have the ability to go out 5 years. You had investments out 5 years within the investment core portfolio, but we noticed that there was really no structure to why certain amounts of investments were invested out to 5 years versus 4 years versus 3. And so in conjunction with Teresa and Deanne, we really identified that the 0 to 5 year U.S. Treasury benchmark was the most appropriate, that fit the city's risk and return profile. And we really right-sized the duration, which is how long we invested that portfolio out, to better match that benchmark. The third thing is that we helped consolidate some of the pools of the city. You were using 3 different providers and had 7 different pools, and we noticed there was a lot of overlap that was unnecessary and created probably a lot of organizational redundance. And so we helped consolidate that to 1 pool provider and 2 pools to also manage the amount of funds invested in commercial paper, so kind of reduce some of the risk. And then finally helped move to a true third-party safekeeping custodian that we're in the process of executing right now, Principal. that helps the city meet best practice standards for custodial services for your operating funds. So I'm going to have Deanne come back up and talk a little bit about the investment policy before we finalize the presentation.
Thank you, Mitch. So the investment policy is the backbone from your directives of how the portfolio is to be invested and the guidelines that we manage within. And so it's very often, the first priority is always safety, liquidity, and return. We hear about that all the time. I always take it to another level, which is stability, structure, and accountability. Because it's important for you to understand the structure that we're managing, why we're managing it that way, and making sure your earnings are stable. So this shift of bringing you out of a heavy weighting towards liquidity has created a more balanced and more stable interest earnings portfolio for the city. So there were several areas that we looked at within your policy. So the red line is a little bit loud, but basically what we did is we brought in GFOA best practice structure. So you guys are a GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association entity. That's a national organization with over 14,000 local government members. So we took their sample policy guidelines in structure, moved some of your wording into that structure, and then brought in some additional best practice actual language. So that's where some of the changes are. I could tell from your policy that this has been an ongoing policy, that just different things kind of came in over the years, and that's very often how we see it. So we felt that now at the start of this engagement, it'd be better for us just to go in, make a big cleanup, get it all aligned to statute, get it aligned to your proper risk profile that we're seeing, and then each year we will review that if there's any changes. Sometimes there's small adjustments, but we're going to do the big major changes today. Several sections were added, and those were referenced in your memo. We used both GFOA and another national association, GIOA, to create the language that was appropriate for those updates. We enhanced your tables, added in some additional language, and lowered some of the risk profile in certain categories. Statute allows you to do 50% in corporates, commercial paper, bankers acceptance. We more quantified that to the realistic markets of risks that were appropriate for you by bringing corporates and commercial paper into a 25% target. We added in some maximum maturity constraints that, again, builds structure and allows us to adhere and manage the risk. And then we changed some of the language just to be current and adoptive. And then we added items to the benchmark, which Mitch just covered. And it's important when we're looking at the benchmark, that's creating transparency and accountable to you, that as we manage those assets, we're doing what the directives are within the policy. So with that, I'm going to go back to Mitch, and then we'll take questions.
So we thought we'd finish by just sharing a snapshot of the current portfolio as it stands as of April 30th. And so the one thing that I do want to point out is, again, that investment core, that's really what we are managing, but we are overseeing, kind of helping advise on all of the funds for the city. The big change that we've seen is just increasing that investment core component size. While doing so, we were also able to increase the yield of the total portfolio. When we took over December 31, the portfolio book yield is about 358. Now we're up to 373. And we do anticipate with some further reinvestment, some of this maturities coming off of that portfolio that are at lower yields. And the current markets is going to help us maybe even get that up to 4% or above. And so this is just a nice little snapshot of that. Now this is a report that we produce for the city every single month. We break this out to just show the total portfolio, but there's also several other pieces that Teresa, Deanne can share with council when appropriate and when needed to help understand a lot more of the different dynamics of the portfolio as well. So reporting is really one of the things that we stress, and we really try to provide, as Deanne mentioned, a lot of transparency so that you can feel you're being accountable stewards of the city's portfolio with our guidance. And so with that, we will take any questions or comments.
Okay, do we have any questions from council? Oh, I knew if I'd give it a minute, people would pop up. Go ahead, Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, GPA, for the presentation and for the what seems like very nuanced work behind the scenes there. Just a couple clarifying questions on my end. One, looking at the page, let's see, this is page 17 of the investment policy specifically. That's under the section called reporting. And it says on a quarterly basis, an investment report shall be prepared and submitted to the chief financial officer who provided to city council in a timely manner. Is that standard of reporting, that frequency of reporting standard? Is semi-annually more appropriate? Is monthly more, like what are you seeing across kind of industry? And I guess what makes sense from a staff perspective? How much work does this actually entail?
Great question. We do see quarterly as kind of the most common standard for city governments. We provide reporting to the city on a monthly basis. And so I think quarterly is a very appropriate cadence to be able to have Teresa and staff provide you updates with those reports that we provide.
Thank you. Harold, Teresa, is that consistent with what you would appreciate? I mean, like, I'm trying to understand like how many types of decisions or kind of what course, changes of course is even reasonable to entertain, if that's even a decision or if it's just an informational item. And so I'm guessing, like, I'm trying to wonder, like, how frequently is valuable versus just kind of standard practice?
Thank you, Councilmember Popkin. So quarterly is what we have been doing historically. I guess I am certainly open to providing you, because as Mitch mentioned, we get reporting monthly. I'm certainly open to providing that information to you monthly. So I would ask you, what is most valuable to you all?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Funny, I was thinking the other direction. I was like, I'm kind of wondering if every 6 months is actually just more reasonable. Like, what would we do differently with that information on a quarterly basis versus, every half year? And maybe the better question to ask first is, how much work is it to prepare that report? Is it just, I'm going to copy these cells into this sheet and send it over? Or is it a lot of robust analysis that kind of underpins that?
No, the analysis is actually done by these folks. It is a report that we can just essentially run out of their system. So it would really be just putting it on the agenda for you.
Okay. So it seems like it's not much work for you, and quarterly is standard practice, and I will take up no more time on this topic then. Appreciate that clarity. My only other question for the GPA folks perhaps is under the maturity section, so I'm looking at page 15 of the investment policy draft. Under the maturity section, there's a clause that says the maximum weighted average maturity of the portfolio shall not exceed 3 years. And I'm just curious if you could elaborate on the logic and rationale behind that.
Yeah, so that is really just tied to managing the risk of the city's investment portfolio. So the longer that you invest, the more subject you are to the sensitivity and the value of your investments tied to changes in interest rates. And so knowing that you have a 5-year maximum allowable maturity cadence within the statute, 3 years is going to be very much on the higher end even of a portfolio that you would manage to a 5-year cadence. The 0 to 5 year benchmark for reference has a duration of 2.1 years. Maturity is going to be a little bit higher than that, but that's going to be your really standard, again, benchmark for a 0 to 5 year portfolio. And so that 3 year total portfolio weighted average maturity is simply trying to add additional constraints to manage the risk of the city's investments.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the work that staff did. GPA, welcome to the Longmont team. We're happy to have you. I sent some emails back and forth with Teresa on this, and I'm curious to hear directly from you about your experience with ESG specifically and some of the more not policy driven, but just making sure that public dollars reflect public values to some degree. What experience do you have, facilitating those kinds of investments? What concerns happen? What are the pitfalls in communities that do that? Because I'm correct that right now the policy does not include ESG, human rights, climate, anything like that, or conflict related screens. Is that correct?
That is correct. So thank you for the question, Councilmember Marcin. We have extensive experience working with public entities, especially as a West Coast-based firm, helping out West Coast primarily clients with environmental, social, and governance-based investing. Many of our clients have it directly in their investment policy, that those are values that they strive to embody as a city, and therefore they provide that level of, again, additional constraints within their investment policy to direct the investments of the city and their investment advisor. So it is certainly something that we have, again, a considerable amount of experience helping different entities with, and can certainly do so should the city council choose to make that a priority.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I had other questions, but you kind of answered all of them within that. So thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue, thank you very much for the
You're very welcome.
presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now on to item B, presentation to the Longmont Police Department of the CALEA. I don't know if you just say the whole thing. CALEA Certification Award. And David Moore, we have you here to introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I was a little worried to touch the microphone there, but seems to be working okay. First, I'd like to express my appreciation for you allowing us to be here and recognize this monumental achievement by the Longmont Police Department. CALEA stands for the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies and is often recognized as the national gold standard for accreditation for law enforcement. What CALEA does for our community is it assures transparency in our policing and assures that we are conforming to national best practices and standards through our operations. This was a 3-year venture that culminated in us receiving our initial accreditation in March. It involved 100% review of our policies and also 2 presentations, if you will, assessments, one web-based, one in-person, where they verify that our facility is in proper functioning and up to standards, and also that our policies are up to standards. This really involved all of our department, and all of the police officers, supervisors had to engage in this process and be a part of it. But I would like to take a moment to recognize the 2 who did the lion's share of the work, our Chief of Staff, Steve Schultz, and our Accreditation Manager, Marquis Bickner. So without their work, we wouldn't have been able to get here. At this time, I would like to invite Colonel Packard from the Colorado State Patrol, who is a commissioner and on the executive board of CALEA.
Thank you very much, Chief Moore, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Again, my name is Matt Packard. I have the privilege of serving as the chief of the Colorado State Patrol and also the current chairman of the commission for CALEA. It's a role I've had as a commissioner for several years, and a unique opportunity to view law enforcement organizations from across North America and understand how they develop their policies and hold themselves accountable. And I just want a brief comment first. In my role as the chief of the State Patrol here in Colorado, you have a tremendous police department, and our troopers look on a regular basis to police officers in Longmont to assist. I've had personal experience in working on critical incidents, small things, large things, and all points in between. And we know at the patrol that we can always look to a really professional law enforcement organization here in Longmont to help us achieve our goals. And we hope that we strive to return that favor, of course, to our partners here in Longmont. And that's a segue to the work that we do at CALEA. As the chief said, this is a process that is extensive. It is a heavy lift for the staff. It is a heavy lift for the whole department. And it requires the courage of the organization to really bring in and allow people from the outside to have a behind-the-curtain view of all of the daily operations and the structure that's in place to ensure the organization is functioning in a modern and accountable way. And to bring in someone that you've never met and then give them the keys to all the doors and say, I hope this works out. And so it is easy for an organization, one that is as respected as the one here in Longmont, to say, we have trust, we are appreciated by our governing body and by our citizens, but we need to do something more. And Longmont Police did just that. And I would tell you that the value that comes from that is tremendous. As a chief of an organization that has been accredited for a few years, that initial lift is a challenge. But the value here becomes Now, every year that CALIA will bring staff in and will continue to assess that not only do you have modern policy, but you're actually following your own policy. Turns out it's hard to make sure you do that sometimes with your own staff, and this is really a tremendous value that is brought into the organization. But I think perhaps the most, even more value to that is what Longmont Public Safety has committed to is encouraging or ensuring that their policy maintains current. The commission works regularly, a few times a year, where the commission meets and reviews all of the standards, and there's hundreds of these standards, and then assesses that between what's going on in technological advancement, what social issues are impacting policing. All of that is happening behind the scenes. And then agencies like Longmont will benefit from that work of the commission because we'll update our standards, and then if they would like to maintain their accreditation, they have to update their policy to do that as well. So it is from a perspective, and I will admit, members of the council, I'm pretty biased. I'm very proud of the work that we do at CALIA. But what makes me proud is because it is an organization that accredits and proves that professional policing is occurring across North America. And it is an honor today to recognize that achievement of Longmont Public Safety and award to them their certificate for their initial accreditation on behalf of the commission. So congratulations, Chief. Thank you, sir.
That is very exciting. I feel like we do need a photo. Yeah, I see Sandy cueing us in. I mean, should we stand behind the video of the of the rest of council? Oh. I don't know. We can just stand here. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
You want us behind this or over here?
Yeah, over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Why don't we have everyone shift over just like half a person?
Okay.
Yeah, very
Okay.
good. Yes, very good. All right, 1, 2, 3. Just want to do one more. Congratulations.
You are. Wish you were here. Great, thank you very much. Oh, and I do see Councilmember Popkin in the queue. So before you, we have folks heading out the door, so let me call them back. Go ahead, Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, if I may, I did have 2 questions for folks on
Oh,
this.
sorry, yeah, come back down. They were halfway out the door.
Well, good. I'm glad we caught them. I will go ahead and ask the questions.
Yes.
I think what I first of all, thank you and congratulations. I want to make sure that myself and other community members understand what we're congratulating you for. And I think the first thing is I'd love to understand, what level of assessment? Is this a self-assessment? Is this an external assessment entirely? Is it a mix of both? And, can you speak to if it is actually, let me just start there. Is it a self-assessment? Is it an organizational assessment? Did you have to apply and they just reviewed your application? What was that process like?
Yeah.
Councilmember Popkin, so it does involve both a self-assessment and an external assessment by CALIA members. The self-assessment is in one, deciding that we want to go that route to achieve accreditation. It literally took 100% review of our policies, and more specifically policies that are governed by CALIA, which are usually the more important policies, if you will, use of force, things of that nature. We have to meet a set of standards that CALIA provides in our policy, and on top of that, we then have to prove yearly that we meet those standards through our actions during the year. This continues pretty much every year through 4 years when we receive final accreditation, but then we also continue after that and have to do that, just not as often. But it is both a personal assessment by the department and an outside assessment. So we have a web-based where 2 assessors looked at all our policies, and we engaged with them for a week-long process of correcting policies, showing proofs, and assuring that we were in a good spot. And then approximately a month later, we had an internal assessment where an assessor visited the police department for 3 or 4 days and actually toured the facilities, spoke with community members to assure that we were meeting the community's expectations, and also spoke with members of our police department. We did get to choose a few of those because they're subject matter experts, but they also had the right to choose anyone in our department. They could pick up someone walking down the hall and start questioning them about our policies, our procedures, what we do as an agency, and they look for consistency in what we say as well as what other people, including community members, say. So does that answer your question?
It gives me a much better window into this was a combination of departmental, opt-in to choose to apply for this or pursue this, but that it sounds like there is an audit process to really say, hey, is what's on paper what's actually happening?
Yes.
And I think that's really, we've had some conversations just on public safety technology over the last few months where, you and others, Chief Artis and other folks from the department have said, we have these policies in place, and that's why, we do what we do and we say what we say. And, that's only as good as those policies are actually upheld, right?
Correct.
And so I think that's actually really encouraging here. The one other question I had, and maybe this is more for the CALEA folks, is can any department apply for this, and how many of the departments in the U.S. are CALEA certified? Like, I know if I applied for the Hopkins Professionals Association Accreditation Association, I would be 100% approved for that. But I'm curious, like, how many departments, what's when we say it's the gold standard, what does that really look like?
Has to go by the board.
Thank you very much for the question, Councilman Popkin. I don't have the specific numbers memorized of the number of agencies. I would tell you in Colorado, in fact, if you go to CALEA.org, you can actually sort the agencies in Colorado that are accredited, and you can look at that. All of the accredited agencies are listed online. Again, that's CALEA.org. So that's one way that you can research that. I would tell you anybody can apply, and there's a whole process to go through that. But the chief referenced the self-assessment, and that is actually, having been through this process from the commissioner's perspective, he described the pre-assessment perfectly, and then the web-based assessments, and then the in-person assessment. And then the culminating fact before accreditation is awarded is that every single accredited agency and accredited program is reviewed by a commissioner that goes through the reports and then verifies that all of this is true, that all and the assessors that do that work draft those reports for us. And then we make the recommendation for ultimately for accreditation. So that's the vote that occurred in March for Longmont here. But what we find in that pre-assessment process as they're working with CALEA staff helps them make decisions about, well, this, for some agencies, maybe they're very, very close, and they make an assessment of how much work is going to need to get done if you're going to achieve CALEA accreditation. And other times we say, this is not the right time for you, and here's a roadmap for you to go. But I will tell you that CALEA's goal is to raise professionalism of the policing profession across the world, across the country. And so our goal is to have as many agencies accredited as we possibly can, but we're not willing to sacrifice what that accreditation means and strive to be good, strong gatekeepers before we award that accreditation.
So,
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the efforts you are making to just elevate standards of policing and public safety across the country. I think it's really critical, especially in this day and age. It looks like from your direction to the website, it looks like there are 15 departments currently listed in Colorado that are CALEA certified, Longmont being one of those. So that is certainly not every agency, far from that. And I think there's some, 18,000 to 20,000 law enforcement agencies in the entire U.S. And so certainly that is far from being just unanimously given to everyone. So thank you for elevating the standards. Thank you for explaining that more.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I would encourage you folks, because I was just about to say when you asked more about information more about CALEA, to go to www.calea.org to look up more information. I was able to find a lot of pieces of information just even in this short time. So for members of public who want to delve deeper into that. And this is, I feel very proud, to be a council during this time, and you all should be very proud of yourselves. And thank you for serving our community, and thank you for all the work you've done to raise that level of standard. And I've seen that for several years as a resident prior to even thinking about running for council. So thank you very much. I do see Councilmember Prieto. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and just such a shout out to our public safety department. I mean, this is really just, we can see it every day. And the work that you guys do and the feedback that we get from the community and the way that you guys just operate and work together. So I'm so honored and proud to have our public safety department right here in Longmont, and we're not dealing with public safety issues on a regular basis, such as maybe other communities might be. I do have one question. I did try to look it up, kind of just I thought about it and I didn't see anything specifically, but I'm curious as to whether CALEA scores departments in like different categories, such as like cultural sensitivity or responsiveness.
Thank you, Councilwoman Prieto. There's not necessarily scores. There are standards that are promulgated that address things like engagement with the community. We look for things like bias, and we look at demographics of the agency, demographics of the community, and how things are enforced. And so there are standards that are rooted in ensuring that there's a connection between the agency and the community. But as far as a score, the accreditation process says what the assessment is whether or not there's policy in place that achieves that goal and that the agency is following it. The chief might have
Perfect.
Okay.
Which ultimately, leads to that, that specific thing, those categories is if everything's operating efficiently and effectively above, then the other things with, working within the community and certain cultures and different things like that kind of fall into place. So again, thank you so much for the presentation and great work to our public safety department.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I didn't mention, but we do provide our statistics on use of force, our contacts, our demographics of our agency, and that was what Colonel Packard was referring to. And then we have to complete reports about any anomalies and anything that goes outside the norm, we have to answer to. So that is part of this process yearly.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support, council and mayor.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Have a
Of
good
course,
evening.
what a high honor. One more clap. Okay, very good. So now we're on the third item for presentations, a presentation outlining a proposal for community engagement, design development, and community survey for a new Longmont flag design through Art in Public Places. And do we have Angela? We have Angela. Come forward. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Hello, members of council, Mayor Angela Brill, Art and Public Places Administrator for the City of Longmont, the Longmont Museum. Thank you. There we are.
Give me 1 sec.
Great, thank you. So, Art and Public Places Commission was directed to bring forward a proposal and a timeline that was a community-centric approach to a design competition, engaging the community and incorporating community-informed inspiration and feedback for consideration for a new flag design. The commission has convened, a task force has come together, and this is what we have for you today. Just a quick little review about our current design. It was designed in 1974 by Glenn Troyster, a U.S. Army information officer. The design itself is 3 parallel lines in geometric shapes intended to evoke the letter L for Longmont, and then the semicircle representing the sea in Colorado. It's been despaced twice, once in 1975 and again in 1984. And the piece that went in 1984 is actually in the museum collection. And interestingly enough, I learned recently that in the elder exchange between our sister city, Northern Arapahoe Wind River Reservation, and Longmont co-created sister flags through the Quilting Club, which name is the Laprobes, just last year. So there's some image on the bottom left of the design that is hanging in our senior center, but also there's one on the reservation. So there is a bit of a rule of thumb, if you will. It's been used for 2 decades for design guidelines for best practice for flag design. I do say design guidelines because I think that that's a really important aspect of good design, is that it really is a rule of thumb. Distinctive designs can't be mandated. So creativity is really important. And it was compiled by Ted Kay, again, 2 decades ago. The original design was asked to be distinctive, and so memorable design is cohesive and balanced. And I would say that our current flag represents these 5 principles, which is keeping it simple, using meaningful symbolism, using basic 2 to 3 colors or just thoughtful colors, no lettering and seals, and to be distinctive or be related to a previous design. Interestingly enough, in 2 decades, the use of flag symbolism is used in many different media. So we may want to consider in good design that it's not just hanging on a pole or out in the air flowing around, but that it is also used as a symbol across digital spaces. And also one thing that is not here is to avoid being very literal. I think that should probably be added. So Art in Public Places took all of these ideas about a design competition, but also symbolism, and plugging in what has worked for Art in Public Places for open competitions, tried and true. So we would go about a project course with that community feedback and inspiration being the central vein that runs through the competition. We would call for participants, and thank you, Councilmember Marsing, for bringing up a very good point, which was anyone can be creative, even if we don't find ourselves to be a designer or an artist instinctually. That doesn't mean that we can't be creative and bring thoughtful concepts to a visual representation. So we've changed that language a little bit for a call to participants. And those participants would be residents of Longmont. That would be really the only requirement for someone to participate as a designer. Age, ability, education, all of those things aside. We would ask if it were younger folks that they would have a sponsor of an adult or teacher maybe. And so we would kick off this project at the same time that we would put out a call for participants. We would leave that open for about 30 days in my experience. Any longer that you leave a call open past 30 days, people just drag their feet. So it seems about the right time. And we would be soliciting community feedback for someone who didn't want to be a designer, but wanted to express the sentiment that they would like to see in the flag design. So those 2 things would be happening at the same time. Once the submissions are in hand, again, low barrier of entry, either from a digital front or paper. We could come about it from a couple of different ways. There will be a submission review from Art in Public Places, as well as the Longmont Rotary Club. That would take a couple of weeks based upon how many submissions we receive. And then we'll narrow that down to 3 submissions based upon the visual representations that they bring. So those visual representations could be something in someone's portfolio or the kind of artwork or design that they do, or they could create flag designs and submit those as visual representations. So we would narrow it down to 3 folks, give those 3 folks some community feedback, what people, residents would like to see in their symbol, and some design time. It will be really important that we're actually paying these 3 finalists a stipend for their time and their work. It's intrinsic to what we do in Art in Public Places, making sure that people are being paid for this time. So those designs would then come back, and we would send them out to the community asking for preference. alongside our existing flag, and then bring those preferences to you for adoption. So the key points, again, is simply that it is a call for participants. Age and ability make no matter. We'll make sure that it's a low barrier of entry. The comms team has agreed to assist us in the community engagement campaign. And we'll ask people what sentiment, inspiration, and should this symbol represent, and what Longmont ideals will be maintained and relevant in 50 years so that this symbol carries on. Those 3 finalists will then be paid the stipend, $1,000. I would like to thank the Rotary Club of Longmont, who has contributed $1,000 to this effort. So that assists in the cost for the design. The scope of work for the 3 designers will be utilizing the 5 principles of good design, but also conveying the sentiments that were expressed by the community. And then we'll bring those new options back alongside the 1974 design to let you know what the community's preference is, and then a decision can be made from there. From a financial standpoint, I estimate the cost of this will be just over $6,000, with the Rotary Club of Longmont contributing the $1,000. That leaves us at about a total project cost of $5,000. I also estimated the amount of staff time. We will do significant amount of community outreach to make sure that we are utilizing every different avenue to get to folks, to between, you know, school kiddos who are out on summer, folks who might be going to the 4th of July event. I actually am working with someone at the museum who has a camp that is doing about community participation. So I'm going to go talk to some 9 and 12-year-olds about flag design. So event tear up, tear down, and set up, all of those kinds of things. I have an estimated staff hours of 144, and then the volunteer hours, which is significant, going through submissions. I imagine it will be about 72 hours, so about 200 people power hours. So today I'm looking for some questions, feedback about the process, and then hope we can move forward with this project. And I don't remember if I said estimated about a time, about 4 to 6 months.
Thank you. I see Councilmember Prieto.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I didn't have any questions, but you said something that made me have a question. You said that the 3 finalists would then kind of understand what the community wants in a flag, and then they would then produce whatever that sentiment is. Can you tell me how the 3 finalists will be chosen? Is it based off of a design that they bring forward?
Yes. So when applicants are submitting to participate as a designer, they'll need to bring a part of their application will be some visual representations of a concept. So whether that be an illustration of something that they love and have in their heart, that's something that they've created, or if a participant wanted to take a stab at what a design could look like, they would bring that forward. They'll also answer a couple of questions, which is, hi, hello, my name is, why this project is important to me, and how they will utilize the principles of flag design in their approach to creating those designs. We will create a metric based upon the flag designs as well as merits of visual approach to narrow those applications down. So it'll be a scoring-based system, which Art in Public Places and the Rotary, as a selection panelist, will go through.
Okay, so I guess I'm curious as to why not collect that community feedback first before people submit their designs?
So the first portfolio work or representations is demonstrating skill set, not doing the work per se exactly for this design. And the reason is really important. Not only are we looking at someone's aesthetic and that they bring something consistent across the board of how they translate ideas into visual representation, but also it's how we assess humanness of design. It would be very easy for someone, if we did a competition where we were just accepting proposals of the design itself, for those to be generated by AI. So we are going to be assessing the visual work for consistency's sake. And it's also to assure that the folks who are doing those final designs for consideration are actually being paid for the extensive amount of labor and time that it will take to do those. So Art in Public Places is feeling very comfortable with, as an official design, that we approach it in the way that we hire artists similarly to our other projects.
Okay, and yeah, and I guess I just asked that question because I guess it's my worry that if the heart of the original design comes forward and the panel chooses it because they love it, they feel like it reflects Longmont, but say the community is like, we want mountains, and this design, this original design that made it through the hundreds of designs doesn't have mountains, then we really start to change like the heart of what that original design was and how it surpassed all the other ones. So I guess that was just the reason why I was asking.
Sure, and I'm certainly not being clear. So the first round of the portfolios, when people are submitting their visual, is just to get to that place where they become one of the 3 designers, and then at that point, the information and feedback from the community will be given to them, and then they need to create the actual design to be voted on. So exactly what you are saying, the designers will receive the community feedback in advance, if that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for the back and forth. I know this was kind of thrown at you and the commission, so I have not been able to attend in person, but I have watched, thanks to LPM, all of the conversations you all have had about this. And I, for those who have not seen those conversations, what generally, I think my position on this is out there, that I'm a supporter of our current flag for a lot of the reasons you talked about. Meets, the history of the flag, meets the standards of flag design, all those pieces. Just generally, I'm curious about an artist's perspective, and I know we have thoughtful art thinkers on the AIPP. What's been kind of their thought process generally about this, the current flag design and kind of this overall process, understanding that they're taking council direction in stride?
Sure. While I would never speak on behalf of all of them collectively, I think that public art projects versus design brand, I dare say, branding projects have similarities and differences. Yeah. And so it's not our normal, extremely more creative kind of art projects, because it is design related. And it's a pretty big ask for an official flag. This is it's a big deal. So I think that there was some apprehension into deviating from being super creative.
What I've appreciated in listening to the board's conversation was initially, oh my goodness, what have they done? What have they given us? And over time, it does seem like there have been a few folks that have really gotten on board and been excited to do the work. So I appreciate that. I really appreciate too the changes that you made kind of from the artist to the participant model, because I do think, to your point, there's some clear differences between a civic design process and an art process, right? I think we're talking about different standards, different objectivities, et cetera. I know there's not necessarily an item for us to vote on this, and you're more or less seeking direction. So you've taken the direction, because I sent some emails back and forth, that direction in stride. I really appreciate it. I still am generally hesitant about the process, and certainly I because of my sentimentalities around the existing flag, don't think I would support council contingency on this. But I appreciate the work. I understand where the train is going, and am really thankful to you and the commission for taking it in stride.
Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Kalkoffer.
Thank you, Mayor. Angela, thanks for the presentation. Thanks for everything you do. I have a question. There's a municipality very close to us that have recently gone through this. Have we learned a few things from their process, and have we incorporated that into what we're going to be doing to make sure that the community feels like we're not just pulling the rug out from underneath them and giving them a design that nobody likes?
Yes, thank you for the question, council member. Yes, I think that the community very close to us has a number of significant differences. The first and foremost is that the same process, while under the guise of the museum, that is not a municipal museum, that is a private museum. And it very much was an unofficial flag design, open to the world, apparently. I understand that the flag design was chosen by someone who doesn't live in this country. We are really going the opposite direction with an official design, threading the community input, feedback, and response all the way through, making this as accessible to the vast of our community as possible. And I think that that's where some of those dollars are going to be spent in the best possible way we can. Is I've been told you have to let someone know a message 7 times in 7 different ways before it really sinks in. So that's going to mean garage sale signs with QR codes. It's going to mean really hitting the pavement with some flyers and getting out there. So that first and foremost is woven into the Art in Public Places process. And I would say that that is what we bring, that's our strength that we bring here, is really bringing the community into this. Because it's not just something that we're going to be looking at as an official design for a short amount of time. It really needs to be the long consideration.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor. Angela, Eric, all the Art and Public Places commissioners, I want to thank all of them and you for the hard work on this. It's a hard one, and the community is kind of mixed about things, but as the liaison to the board, I feel like it's important. People want to see a little bit of nuanced change. Nothing off the charts, I think. You can't do much with 3 different colors, so you're probably limited. But I think there's a sense of bringing the community together at an important time in our history as a city, a state, and a country. So if there's not others in the queue, I'd like to move council option 1, accept the project proposal and direct staff to proceed as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem to option number 1, and that has been seconded by Councilmember Christ. Councilmember Popkin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for the motion. Angela, thanks for the really thoughtful approach here and the clarity of presentation and how the Arts and Public Places is thinking about this. Because we're discussing the motion, I want to talk to my council members at this point, so I just want to thank you for the effort there. I will be voting against this. I don't think we should be using council contingency on this at this time, at least. And I just want to speak directly to a few other council members. I want to talk about timing, use of funding, and priorities. And so I guess since council gave direction on this in February, we've seen fuel prices increase, inflation has increased, our public safety needs have increased. And so I guess considering that this process would take at least 6 months, which makes sense, we would want to do this right if we're doing it. We're not going to hit, I think this came up possibly around the July 4th planning originally and the 150, 250 celebration, but the 6 months is going to put us way beyond that. And I think that's, responsible if you're doing a thoughtful design process. And so I guess I'd ask, why now? Why is this something we're spending money on right now? And spending staff resources on right now? And while I understand the desire for a new flag design from some, I think this is a want, not a need. The council continues to spend our contingency funds loosely. Right now, it's currently on 3 Fs, fireworks, festivals, and now flag designs. And I would strongly discourage us from continuing to roll through our contingency when we know there are other things that might challenge our budgets or kind of urgent requests from our community that we don't, and we may not even know what might come before us. And then the last point I wanted to make here is that even within the Arts and Public Places realm, I think we have some higher priority, more time sensitive items that I think would be ambitious to pull off, but we could absolutely consider when we think about placemaking around the First and Main Transit Center, which we're pulling so many resources in our core of our community that's not only going to benefit people visually for generations, but would help attract development, housing, the right types of public spaces and third spaces that we're trying to create for people. And you know, art plays a critical role in that, and placemaking plays a critical role in that. So if I had to pick where I'm spending dollars, and I partly do with my vote, it's not here right now. And if someone has a strong opinion as to why now is really critical, I'd love to hear that. But that's why I'm leaning towards a no on this at this time.
Okay, thank you. And I'm actually going to give Councilmember Christ the floor. She was the maker of the original motion back in February. So, oops, and I just turned on the wrong mic. So, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Popkin, for your comments. I originally started this because I was handing out the legacy flag at the July 4th festival last year, and people said, "Oh, we didn't know we had a flag, and what does this represent?" And I didn't really have an answer because I hadn't seen the flag before either, but I was curious about it. Anyway, in bringing the motion forward, this year is America's 250th anniversary. It's also the city's 155th anniversary and the state's 150th anniversary. We have a lot of anniversaries this year. In fact, NGLA told me it's 40 years since they've been instituted in the city, and 80 years, I guess, last year for the airport. So we're really celebrating Longmont this year. And what a great time to do it when our legacy flag is now 50 years old, and we're transitioning to new possibilities for the city, and looking to the future, really, what's going to take us forward, and to get more engagement around our civic pride. So that is my main reason for doing it. I'm sure there are others that feel like they just want a refresh, or they want to represent something that Longmont means to them, and I would like to see those submissions. And I appreciate the Longmont Rotary, who funded the first legacy flag, to also jump in on this to participate again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Marcy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick. I just want to echo some of what Councilmember Popkin had to say, and just mention that in the conversations with the board, even though the Art and Public Places Commission acknowledged that the current flag meets the standards of flag design, that's why they wanted it included among the four. And I appreciate that thoughtfulness. I've called the current flag before a working class flag, and I believe that. I think as we look to the future of the city, as we look to where we're going, I think it's very important. I see Eric Mason here, who, the great book has a segment on how the flag was originally chosen. It's important for us to hold on to some of those pieces that tell us where we've been. I too will be a no vote on this for a lot of the same reasons related to council contingency, but generally, I want to see us move forward responsibly here. So thanks.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and vote. Oh, wait, never mind. Hold on. Hold your vote. Councilmember Prieto, just saw that hand pop up.
Sorry, it was a last minute hand.
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of give some comments. I really appreciate all the work that the Arts and Public Places has done to make this happen. I think we had this conversation in the beginning and we decided to move forward. And so, well, actually, before I go to that point, can someone remind me how much contingency dollars we're approving here?
That we are approving, or that we have?
That we're approving.
So it's set on the screen. Let's see, I'm trying to.
Is it the 5,067?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was reading that, because I didn't say like specifically the breakdown, anyways, it wasn't translating to me, but I say that all to say, council has really been talking about how we can engage the community a little bit more. And I definitely think that this is one of those areas in which we could really have that community engagement and build that relationship. And so I will be voting yes on this. I do hear Councilmember Popkin's point on just kind of just making sure that we're not spinning down so quick to where there might be an emergency in the future. But I do believe that as a council, we did move forward on this, and a lot of work and time has been put into this, and so for me it seems right. But again, it just goes back to community engagement, and it's the whole community. So I'm excited for the new flag. I'm excited to see who the winner is going to be. For all we know, it's a fourth grader out at, Central Elementary or something. So I just wanted to make those comments and just kind of hit on that point of community engagement. Community engagement looks many different ways, and I believe that this is one of the wonderful ways that we can do that and hit that priority. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and vote. I think we've discussed enough. Oh, no, refresh maybe. Nope, you can also give a verbal vote. Nay. So, and then Councilmember Prieto, if you want to give a verbal vote.
Yes, that's fine. I'm not seeing it on my screen.
Okay.
I mean, yes.
Okay. Okay, so that carries 5-2 with Councilmember Marcin and Councilmember Popkin in opposition. We are now on to public invited to be heard. The first and only person on the list is Lance Whitaker. Come on down. Okay, great. And thank you for, Angela, Eric, thank you for your presentation. It's great.
Lance Whitaker, 1750 Collier Street, longtime resident, probably 47? Oh my God. Anyhow, today is National Paper Airplane Day, as I gave your city clerk there. It's also National Blueberry Cheesecake Day, and that's all I got for you. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you. Before we move on to consent agenda, does anyone need a 5-minute break? Do you need a break?
Excuse me, I thought I signed in up there, but.
I just have.
Is this her?
You signed up for the second reading on public hearing sign-up sheet for the annexation of marijuana establishments in Boulder County. Is that not what you wanted to sign up? Oh, well then, you know what? Come on up. I'm going to just transfer your name over.
My name is Marjorie Logan.
Oh, let's put the mic on. Yep.
Marjorie Logan. I live in the Old Town neighborhood. Moved here 20 years ago from the East Coast. Was lucky enough to be able to afford a house back then, 20 years ago. And I have a wonderful neighborhood. I have wonderful neighbors, including the Martini's Grill, which is on my block. Very respectful people. I have a neighbor next door who's never finished his house. I was aware when they moved into their house, I bought my house from them, that they didn't have the proper permits, but they moved in anyway. I never complained, but now, for the last 2 years, there's a vehicle, it's a historical Jeep, large vehicle, that sits in front of their house that impedes my vision when I'm backing out of my driveway. It's a problem. It has, I know it hasn't moved in at least 1 year. It may be 2 years. I feel like it's more than 2 years. So that's my first problem. The police don't seem to want to do or can't do something about it. I don't know how historical vehicles work, but it's rotting. So my great gripe today is I have a lovely home with a lovely front porch, and I enjoy sitting out there in my retirement every day in this wonderful place. However, today I felt like I was being bombarded by the airplanes flying over. Now, I didn't buy house over by the airport, and I can understand those people being aggravated that they bought their houses in the wrong place, but I did not. And I resent, why do we have small planes flying back and forth over the Old Town area? Why does that happen? It should not happen. So those are my gripes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Well, and your last 44 seconds left. What do you enjoy about Longmont?
I love Longmont. The senior center is wonderful. They need more handicap parking. The pools are wonderful. The rec center's wonderful. The people are wonderful. The parks, what you've done with the park. Central Park is, I sit on my front porch and I can hear the kids over there playing. I have a little library out front of my house that's got books in it. It's got chalk in it.
That's awesome.
It's got lollipops. And they come by and everybody knows my house. It's the Lollipop House.
I love it.
So
I love it. Thank you.
I love this town.
Good night. Okay. So, how do you feel? Do you want to go through the consent agenda? Let's go ahead and go through the consent agenda, and then we can reevaluate if we need a break. Go ahead. Yeah.
The second reading and public hearing for all ordinances introduced on this consent agenda will be held on June 9th, 2026. Item A is Ordinance 2026-35, a bill for an ordinance amending Section 14.20.150 of the Longmont Municipal Code regarding the utility rebate program and service disconnects. Item B is Ordinance 2026-36, a bill for an ordinance authorizing a farmland lease agreement between the City of Longmont and CSP Farms, David Kelly, tenant for the Bragg Spangler property, the premise. Item C is Resolution 2026-29, a resolution of the Longmont City Council adopting a revised investment policy for the city. Item D is Resolution 2026-30, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Longmont and the Downtown Development Authority for support and services. Item E is to approve the Community Satisfaction Survey Plan for summer of 2026. Item F is to approve 7 capital improvement program amendments. Item G is to accept the Colorado Communities for Climate Action Proposed 2026 Policy Statement.
Okay, prior to pulling items, do not forget, so we do have 2 ordinances that will be coming back for a public hearing, so please consider that. And we did agree that items that we would pull would be directly for opposition or asking of questions. So with having said that, does anyone want to pull an item? Councilmember Marcin. No,
Thank you,
all
Mayor.
of them went up.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item C.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull items E and F.
Okay. And Councilmember Christ.
I would like to pull D and G.
Okay. Well, then there.
2 of them are easy.
Yeah. So, okay. So, may I have a motion to accept the consent agenda minus items C, D, E, F, and G? Actually, to just approve items A and B.
So moved.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Chris, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Let's go ahead and vote. Councilmember Chris made the motion, and it was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Mhm. And Councilmember Popkin, did you want to give a verbal? Okay, so he says yay. So that carries unanimously, and we are now, does anyone need a break?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to take a 5. Okay, if we can reconvene. Okay, so we are now on to our, let's see. Sorry, I lost my page here. We are now on to ordinances and second reading and public hearing on, sorry, I lost my spot here, sorry. Trying to find it online. Okay, on any matter. We are on item A, annexation of marijuana establishments in Boulder County enclaves. And we're going to go ahead and start with item A1, ordinance 2026-19, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Longmont Municipal Code for annexed marijuana establishments. So are there any questions from council on this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, I will now open the public hearing. Are there any members of the audience who would like to speak on this? I don't see anyone on my list. So seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. May I have a motion to pass and adopt ordinance 2026-19? Excuse me. So it was moved by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Councilmember Popkin, were you going to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. And go ahead and you have your name and you have your hand up.
Yes,
So
I
go
wanted
ahead.
to make one comment on the ordinance before we vote. And since there are three related ordinances, I'll just make two comments here so we don't have to cover multiple things. First, I just wanted to say many thanks to staff on this, the clerk's office, legal, and planning. As we were reading through this, I mean, even one annexation involves quite a bit of policy updates and changes, and I appreciate all of the work. And I think what we heard at this first reading first or zero reading a few weeks ago was also just how much thoughtful engagement with these specific businesses that staff conducted too. So I just wanted to say many thanks to staff on that. Secondly, if folks are just catching up on kind of where we are, why we are where we are today on this, the council comm was also fantastic. And I just really wanted to highlight that this is really addressing a question of fairness for our existing businesses who are trying to sell similar services and products. And this annexation plus the licensing ensures that the two businesses that are annexed in pay their fair share. And that provides, as the council comm noted, significant operational, regulatory, and fiscal benefits to the city. I look forward to voting for this. Because I think that is really what we're aiming to do. And those benefits are listed out very clearly in the council comm. So again, thank you there. I think those are all the comments I just wanted to make at this point. We've talked about this before, and I think this is a smart move for us.
Okay, great, thank you. See no one else in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Councilmember Popkin, are you able to see? Okay, so he's a yay. And that carries 6-1 with Councilmember Christ in opposition. Now, item A.2, ordinance 2026-20, a bill for an ordinance approving enclave annexation 26 located at 250 South Main, generally located east of South Main Street and north of Ken Pratt Boulevard, and zoning the property PUD planning unit development. Do we have any questions from council? Okay, seeing none, I will now open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-20. Are there any members of the audience who would like to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. May I have a motion to pass and adopt ordinance 2026-20? Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Marcin, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. He got you before the two. We'll get to you next time. Okay, seeing no one in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries 6-1 with Councilmember Christ in opposition. And now we are on to item A.3, Ordinance 2026-21, a bill for an ordinance approving enclave annexation 26 located at 19 South Sunset, generally located west of South Sunset Street and north of Boston Avenue, and the zoning the property PUD, planned unit development. Are there any questions from council? Okay, seeing none, I will now open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-21. There's no one on the list, but is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this one? Okay, seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. May I have a motion to pass and adopt ordinance 2026-21? Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember McCoy. Do I have a second? Okay, Councilmember Popkin. Okay, seeing no one in the queue to talk, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries 6-1 with Councilmember Christ in opposition. Thank you. We are now on item B, a bill for an ordinance making the additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities for the city of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning in January 1st, 2026. Are there any questions from council? Okay. Is there any presentation or any? No. Okay. So I will, Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, thank you. Harold, I have a question for you or Teresa on this, or maybe even Sandra. I'm just trying to make sure I'm remembering maybe it's Sandra, the right documents here, because we had a lot of different pieces to this. Yes, the Gulf Enterprise Fund, PRO 197 is in this. So procedurally, does approving this, approving this ordinance also approve the relevant capital improvement project amendments that are that were on consent tonight for item 9F?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilmember Popkin. So yes, so this would approve the funding for PRO 197, which was pulled from consent agenda.
Okay, so passing this on second reading would basically approve the item that's on consent before we've discussed that. I just want to make sure I'm bringing up a question or concern that I have at the right time before something's already said and done.
Councilmember Popkin, Teresa Malloy, Chief Financial Officer. So they really do need to be approved in tandem. It takes both an appropriation and a CIP amendment.
Okay, thank you. Then I will go ahead and address what I was going to address with the item that I want to pull on the consent agenda now, and hopefully not be duplicative here, and also be more functional, ideally. So, Mayor, Council, and Harold, I have some concerns about one of the items. That's PRO 197, which is about $2.5 million. I think it's $2.55 million from the Gulf Enterprise Fund for the updated irrigation system enhancements. And it follows my thinking right now, and I've emailed with staff about this, and we'll ask a few questions just for council's broader benefit. But my broader concern is on our resilience priorities. And we just last week approved kind of the mild drought declaration, and having the city lead by example and cutting back. And where we spend our money here, especially in the tunes of a couple millions of dollars, adds up very quickly on infrastructure. And so I just want to make sure that if we are spending this to enhance the system, it really aligns with those operational resilience and environmental resilience goals that we are trying to align with. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes right now. So as a reminder, so PRO 197 is the Gulf Irrigation Rehabilitation and Replacement CIP amendment. This project is being amended as it reads to add $2.55 million in the Gulf Enterprise Fund, offset by a contribution from fund balance. And so maybe just a couple questions for staff here, because we had a few emails, and I'm not trying to block this inherently, but I want to make sure that that a need for a repair is also being met with the longer term needs that we're trying to plan for, kind of from a system resilience standpoint, which I think, to staff's credit, has largely been the train of thought for a while. And so I just wanted to kind of hit the brakes on this for a moment before we just assume that this is the best course of action. So Jeff, we had emailed a little bit on this, and shoot, I'm losing my notes on this. And so I guess, could you first speak to like how kind of the need here and the timeline? Because maybe this is a conversation we should have and not take up a ton of time here. But I'm wondering if we can just extract that one item from today and then bring that back in a couple weeks with a separate CIP amendment. So that's the process question that I have first.
Pull that part out.
Pull which part?
Just the golf.
I mean, that's a council decision, I
Yeah,
guess.
the PRO 197.
Yep.
Golf irrigation
and Harold, maybe if
rehabilitation
we-
or replacement. But, I'm wondering, should you speak, do you want Jeff to speak a little bit to what is included in this irrigation rehabilitation? Because also too, if it makes our systems better, inherently it's more efficient and it will save dollars, so, but go ahead. Turn on your mic.
Mayor, members of council, Jeff Friesner with the Community Enrichment Department, which golf is a part of. During the 2018 bond election, voters approved replacing the irrigation systems at Twin Peaks and at Sunset. When we got to the process of being able to actually do that work, we didn't have enough money to complete all the work at Sunset. That system is nearly 60 years old and needs to be done because with the money we did have available to do work at Sunset, we replaced all the pumps and motors. Those pumps and motors are way more efficient, and so they're pushing a lot more water with more pressure, and our irrigation pipes are failing. And so to stop that, we really need to go in and do a full replacement of that system. We estimate that's going to cost about $2.1 million. And like what had occurred at Twin Peaks, our consultant is estimating that we'll save between 30 and 37% in water use. And that occurs by having way more efficient controllers so that we can actually set water timing at each head on the golf course. So if one area is not getting enough water, we can increase the amount of water that's going there. And if some areas are getting overwatered, we can reduce it, which ultimately provides a way better experience for our golfers. We will look at with our different, before I do that, let me talk about U Creek as well. U Creek is nearly 30 years old. Our pump station needs to be replaced with new pumps and motors and controllers. It's going to cost about $450,000 and will be the first step in an effort of ultimately replacing the irrigation systems or the irrigation pipes and heads and that sort of thing, which will probably happen in 5 to 6 years if golf continues to be able to save the amount of money that we've been doing. We're looking at probably around $8 million in today's dollars for that to take place. At U Creek, and some of the comments that Councilmember Popkin had asked about was reducing the area that we irrigate. U Creek is a perfect example of being able to have a very good golf course that also provides habitat and doesn't require us to irrigate the entire golf course. It is sanctioned by the Audubon Society as a bird sanctuary because of all the habitat. And then there are also the retention ponds and irrigation ponds that we irrigate out of there. We are able to adjust in the cases of drought and be able to reduce the amount of water. As you all are aware, we are required right now to reduce our watering up by 10%. It's very easy to do that at Twin Peaks by just reducing the amount of time that that system is working. It will give us, by replacing the system at Sunset, it'll give us more control to be able to do that, and also be more efficient at U Creek and what we're trying to do there. As far as the gray water was one of the things that was suggested, I don't know the answer to that. Can the golf course or parks use gray water?
So, well, that's a little bit more complicated because we actually use on Twin Peaks and U Creek, we use raw water to irrigate the course that is specifically adjudicated for that purpose. And so it's not like you can move that water into a municipal use because that's very specific criteria. In terms of the work that Jeff's talking about Sunset, is we adjusted the pumps. The next phase is the pipes. There's actually a third phase coming on that where we want to convert Sunset to raw water because that's the only course that's on potable water today. And so there's an iterative process that you actually go through on irrigation systems on golf courses. And so you hit the pumps and all of the main equipment first, then you come in and you adjust the pipes and the sprinkler heads. And then in Sunset's case, the next question is working with the water utilities to make that conversion onto raw water. And that's important because we're saving hundreds of like 120 acre feet, aren't we, at Twin Peaks? What was the number?
I don't know the number.
We figured the number out a few years ago, but now we have to start figuring out how to move the water that we're saving there to Sunset. So we're using raw water that is designed for that purpose, and that's managed by Wes and his group in terms of what's coming through the system.
Yeah, Harold, Jeff, I appreciate that context, and Jeff, thanks for the additional details on what U Creek is already doing in terms of some of the best practices. That's really encouraging. I think I guess what I'm trying to get at, and why I'm asking about this now, is when we make an investment in a new system, that's not a commitment for 5 years. We're trying to build a system that'll last for 20, 25, hopefully longer than that. We're talking multiple decades, and so. Are we when we're spending the money on the system size? Are we sizing this for what the golf course is going to look like and need, and make sense for Longmont in 10 years, or are we just replacing what we currently have? And I think that's where I wanted to just hit pause on this for a moment, and maybe you know the answer to that, and we can move forward.
No, we're actually looking at a longer horizon than that, because when we design the systems, we really need to look beyond 30 years because I think that's one of the challenges that we've had is that it wasn't necessarily in that long of a horizon, but it actually operated for that long, which was inherently inefficient. And when you redo these systems, you also want it to where you can adjust over time as sprinkler technology and controller technology changes. And that's the backbone for all of this.
So we won't risk overbuilding this, is my question.
No. We're actually trying to reduce the irrigated areas when we redo these systems so that we're not irrigating the outside of the main play area, whereas the older systems did.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Christ.
Well, now for something completely different. So I am looking at the appropriations here. And actually, I'm on page 4 of the council communication. And first, Harold and I talked about this, and then Teresa and I talked about it, and now Sandy and I have talked about it. So, Sandra, let's you and I talk about it. And it's the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. It's the ARPA interest that has come back, that has been earned, and then the payment on the Chrisman loan, that's $104,000. So together, they're $125,972. Now, originally, and this was back, This was back in May of 2024. And originally, there was $200,000 appropriated for local business. And at that time, we decided to put it towards the housing project. And I still would like to recapture that to benefit local business, especially currently we're seeing, pinch points in the local economy. And so I'm concerned about this language that says it will support remaining eligible ARPA-funded projects, to make sure that it isn't, directed towards housing, but could go back towards this, local economy, the local business, 200,000 that they were originally given. Now, at the time, Harold said at the time, we really didn't have a mechanism for that. But since that time, Kelly Gage of LADP has suggested, expanding our SBDC program. We only get a 1 day a week drop in for Longmont, and that's what should I say, scheduled, and the space that's used for that is at the Chamber of Commerce. We also have had conversations at the library because they have a business librarian now, and of course they have equipment, like a lot of computers and stuff that could help with local business. So I see you all talking it over. We want to listen in. What are you saying?
Well, you asked the other Sandra, so I didn't know if it was okay if I answered.
Yeah, please.
A Sandra, just
Sandy
any.
and
Any
Sandra.
I think maybe there's 3 of us, yeah. Councilmember Christ, I'm not sure about the original $200,000. I know when we first created, so there's been 2 tranches of funds that have come for like COVID recovery. ARPA was the second one, but the first one, we had actually set aside $146,000. Why I remember that exactly, I'm not sure. For the parking parklets that we had created for downtown, so that downtown businesses could extend out to the sidewalk, since it was, at the time safer to be eating outside. And so that's the money that we had set aside for business assistance during that grant funding cycle. Mm-hmm. During the ARPA one, for the most part, I'm not remembering any other business particular. Oh, and there was a grant program as well, where we were able to give people who were low income these coins so that they could go and eat at a local restaurant during that COVID recovery time. So those are the 2 business programs that I'm remembering.
Okay, so luckily for all of us, I'm a little OCD, and it happened May 14th, 2024. We just have to look it up on if we go back in our archives.
Okay.
It was on that, it was in that council communication there, where there was 200,000 originally earmarked for.
May 14th, 2024. Let me go take a look at it, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I would mention is the interest income from ARPA. This is the question that you had asked me before.
Right.
Is less fettered than the federal grant money, for sure, because federal grant money has to go towards specific things.
Right.
But the interest
we make on it.
That's right. Doesn't have to follow the same rules. At this point, all of the ARPA money has to be spent by the end of December 2026. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean the paperwork is over. And so we had planned to use interest income to hold on to the accountant to to kind of close out the grant in 2027, since you can't use the federal grant funds for it at that point because they will have already expired. So that's what we were planning to do with interest income. I don't know that delta because Teresa and I were talking about it, and the $20,000 that you're seeing in today's appropriation, I'm not sure was accounted for in that discussion, but I would need to do a little additional research.
No, in the May 14th, this is 2024 when it was originally parceled out, and it was 200,000 of the whole chunk. So that was part of the ARPA. Well, since then, the ARPA has earned interest. So the interest would be.
I'd be happy to go look.
Okay. Yeah. So where does that leave us right now? This is my only question.
Well, I think ultimately that's a council policy question that needs to answer. The last time the council indicated that they wanted that to go to the housing functions, and so.
Right, and that has kind of paid off because this return of 104 is from the Chrisman loan, a payment back from that loan, which is useful. I would just say, like we've seen evidence of distress in the local economy, and I'm not going to mention anything specific, but we know there's at least a couple of instances where people are, putting themselves in a position I have not seen in 40 years, I just want to say. But we have empty sites. We know Councilor Kalkofer and I walked mid-Main. There's a lot of concern about being able to keep up with the regulation. The gal who had the e-bike business and was just outside the LDDA spoke to us extensively, and also at the Chamber Policy Committee about how hard it was to stay in business with all that was going on. It was hard. They were giving credits to the business for e-bikes, but they weren't able to get it timely enough to keep her business afloat.
Okay. Are you done?
Well, I can keep tap
No,
dancing,
well-
but
Okay, so,
I just-
think she's, yeah.
yeah,
Sandy's going to come up with some numbers for us.
she's looking back there.
I see.
So I guess maybe part of the discussion we could have is, do we feel like the SBDC is the right vehicle to support local businesses? I know I've seen it work particularly in tandem with a library in the past, or in other cities, where the city library has a lot of computers and materials and librarians to help others, build websites and what have you. And I know that the Latino Chamber of Commerce has done a lot of that on their own. But this would be additional help, and so to reach more business owners.
I think while Sandy's looking that up, we have a couple other people in the queue. I'm going to jump
Sure.
to them, and then
Sure.
we can circle back to this part. Council member or Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, back to Jeff.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Jeff, I want to make sure we get this cleared up, some of the questions. How is that, all this going to be paid for? Is that paid for by users of the golf course?
Yes, all of that, the resources, the 2.5 million would all be paid from fund balance, which comes from fees and charges that the golfers pay.
And when we have our golf advisory board, I often hear as the liaison that can you give us a little bit of the history of what happened? We had and you started to go down this path before in Councilmember Popkins' line of questioning about how we had a ballot initiative and the city helped get the golf course back on course. But since then, how have we approached everything?
So since 2020, when COVID hit, golf has made an amazing turnabout. When in 2019, I think golf brought in around $3 million. In 2025, we brought in 5.2 million.
Double
I'm sorry?
Double that, just about.
Yeah. And right now it doesn't seem, or it doesn't appear that there's going to be a turnaround. Many people are golfing. Our tee times are full. We're getting people from the surrounding communities that are coming to Longmont because they can't get tee times in their locations. And so people are going wherever they need to get to play golf. And it is putting, I think last year we put about 1.5 million into fund balance, which is allowing us to do some of these projects.
And we're going to be fixing Ute Creek here in the coming years as well, right?
The irrigation, yes, we will. Once we have, replaced the money we're using for this, and that fund balance gets up to $8 million or higher, we will then replace that irrigation as well. At least that's our plan.
And do we see any expansion of Sunset? Any possible way of expanding Sunset?
No,
Okay, so-
I think we're landlocked there, and
That's
I don't
what I
see
thought
that
too,
we
is-
can expand there.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's understood. That this is fully funded, and one of the mechanisms that you're using to bring in this is dynamic pricing. Can you explain a little bit of what that looks like?
Yes. We started using dynamic pricing in 2018, and that is a model that the hotel industry and also the airlines use it, and it raises prices and lowers prices based on demand, time of year, what other activities are going on in the community, and weather. And just to give you an example of kind of what we were talking about before, in 2019, if we got $45 for a round of golf and a cart at U Creek, we were doing very well. Right now, at U Creek on weekends, we have times where people are paying over $100 for their 18 holes. And that dynamic pricing, again, raises and lowers based on that demand. And if things, tee times are few, there are few available, people are gonna pay a higher rate to play as compared to waiting till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and maybe it's warmer and fewer people want to play there, and then you might pay $75 or $80.
And how do you avoid paying that $100 if you're a golfer in dynamic pricing?
I think the key to that is being flexible to play not in the mornings. If you play late afternoon and early evening, the rate you pay is going to be much better than those prime time morning slots.
Would you also say that getting a season pass and calling in 2 weeks ahead of time would be beneficial?
The season passes, absolutely. You pay a much better rate than if you're paying as you go. It provides some additional access. There, everybody can get to tee times 2 weeks out in advance, but there are programs that allow those golfers to be able to get in not earlier, but have better access.
All right. And so, last part here, I want to make sure those that are listening, this is strictly golf. It's not being applied in anywhere else. We're not applying this with our swimming pools, our athletic centers, or anything else like that, and haven't even thought about considering this for airport landing fees. That's just a joke. People have a sense of humor.
I can't respond to landing fees, but you're correct about all the recreation fees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sandy, were you ready to, okay, I'm going to bring her back up to answer Councilmember Christ's question.
Councilmember Christ, that was perfect to give me a date of when we talked about this. So when I went back and looked at that meeting, what that was after the flood, not COVID, after the flood, there was an allocation given to the CDBG-CV fund. This was part of a federal grant, and it was originally, back during flood times, there was $200,000 as part of that 2020 action plan that was set aside for businesses. At that meeting in May of 2024, that was amended out of the plan. And you're right, it was $200,000 that was there for business support. And this council, not this council, a council decided to agree with the staff recommendation and remove that and use it for housing. So you're right on all of that history. It wasn't ARPA or COVID funding. It's not the funding that you're looking at today. It's funding that plan was expended that year. So I just wanted you to know that money wasn't part of the ARPA money. It was part of a different grant program, but you are right on all of those details. There was $200,000 there for business support. It was amended out of the plan during that meeting.
Okay. Council member, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Assistant City Manager. And I'm sorry, that is a very long packet, so thank you so much. I'm also noticing at the end of this, there is in 9H, the American Rescue Plan discussion from Molly O'Donnell that says, Treasury has waived the Federal Cash Management Improvement Act requirements, meaning the city is allowed to place the funds in interest-bearing accounts and then is not required to remit interest earned to the Treasury and is not required to use that interest for eligible uses under ARPA regulations.
That
which
is also
what
true.
we had agreed.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also true. As just a reminder, what the ARPA pieces were. Let's see here. So we had several categories that that the council decided to use ARPA money on, and that was affordable housing, healthy childhood environments, organizational capacity and data management, whole neighborhoods, and then there was one section for household, business, and individual assistance. And the piece of that particular section of the grant was the parklets that I remember for $146,000, which is where we put those barriers outside so that people, the restaurants and the businesses could kind of extend their space to the outdoor, safer environment.
Well, thank you. I think there still is a need for small business appropriations. So I would ask the council to consider appropriating the interest of $21,000. And forgive me, now I'm in a whole different packet, so now I have to go back and find that where I had my page 4 up. Hold on. $21,029 of interest from the ARPA fund, loan payment that we got back from Christmas 2. If we could put that in a fund to earmark it for an SBDC improvement.
So Teresa, would it make sense to do it at this time for this particular reading?
Well, I started with last reading, so it's been a conversation.
Yeah.
I think I would propose that we move forward with the appropriation as is, and then staff can bring a plan back to you all on how to
I would
spend
like
those
that.
interest dollars.
I would like that.
That would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the interest is not actually appropriated, it's just the ARPA funds that are.
Yeah.
Is that correct? It's,
So we are appropriating the interest. We just haven't allocated how we're going to spend the funding, so we can come back with.
We'll come back
here's
with
the
that
balance in the plan.
21,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That would be great.
okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. And
Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, I'll be super brief here. Mayor Pro Tem McCoy, I appreciate some of the clarifications on the use of the Golf Enterprise Fund. And I learned something about how I should approach my tea time in the future, since I have a very limited experience there. I just wanted to clarify my intention here, and I actually don't have any amendments to offer here at this point, and we'll move forward very simply at this point. The intention of where I was coming from was not trying to question, can we reallocate golf dollars somewhere else? It was making sure the investments we're making in the systems, in our golf system and our recreation system, are being used for longer term sustainability of infrastructure for those very systems and make sense for the needs that we're going to have as we're continuing to cut back on water use and we're continuing to look at more sustainable and resilient landscaping and recreational practices. So that was where I was coming from when just trying to make sure that was. I think Jeff actually answered the question, and Jeff and Harold answered the question really well and made it very clear that we were taking a comprehensive approach to our systems there. And so with that, I just wanted to say thank you. And that was where I was coming from on that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So seeing no one else in the queue, I would now like to open the public hearing for ordinance 2026 dash. Oh, wait, are we?
Sorry, Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
One other.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So Jen just mentioned also in the same appropriation is a carryover for Longmont Economic Development Partnership Grant Program of $98,000. So perhaps the direction has been fulfilled through this program? There's already $60,000 that's allocated annually for this program, And last year, it had not been spent and rolled over. So in this particular case,
Okay.
it goes back again. So I just wanted to
Okay.
mention that
So-
same thing in this same appropriation.
Okay, so, yeah, we'll,
Okay.
yeah, I think let's bring it back with the 21,000.
All right.
Okay, so now I'm moving on. So I will now open the public hearing. Wait,
I move.
oh,
I move.
we gotta do before we make a motion to move, pass and adopt, I still have to do the public hearing.
Isn't it?
Oh,
it's
wait, did
consent
we?
agenda.
No, we haven't done.
No, we're not on consent agenda yet.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, put that down.
I'm losing.
Yep, put it down. We're not there yet. I will now open the public hearing for ordinance 2026-33. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? There was no one written. Okay, so now I will close public hearing. Now, may I have a motion to adopt and pass and adopt ordinance 2026-33? Okay, so the motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Popkin. So let's go ahead and vote, and then we will go to consent.
Yes.
We're not there yet.
Sorry. It's so oblivion.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Councilmember Popkin, do you give it a thumbs up? We don't, okay, so yeah, so he's a yay. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Now we are on to items removed from consent agenda. And I'm going back to item C. Who was the one that pulled resolution 2026-29? Go ahead, Councilmember Marcy.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this. I appreciated that discussion as well. I think generally what I'm going to bring here is kind of a more policy-centered conversation for us than necessarily something for staff, although certainly welcome Teresa and GPA staff input. So I really appreciate the work that staff and GPA put into this, and I understand it's a technical policy update. I generally support the direction. I am supportive, obviously, of the core safety framework of safety, liquidity, return, compliance, controls. I think the updates that you've made are great. I think protecting public dollars has to be the foundation. As you mentioned in our previous conversation, responsibility is identified as an optional area, but it's not something that we have incorporated into our policy currently. And that's a concern of mine. I think for me, these are public dollars, and I think residents may reasonably care about where public money is invested. So I'm not going to try to write an investment policy or any updates like that overnight. No, I'm not trying to do that. I want to be clear about that, Mayor. I'm also not trying to ever override safety, liquidity, return, right? Those are the core bedrock principles. But I do want to understand better whether it is prudent or whether essentially how we evaluate our investment principles and how we tie those principles as a council to our priorities as a community, so that the dollars that we're investing as a city are meeting our goals as a council as well. So with that, I wanted to add a motion, and I want to approve. So is that, if that's in order, Mayor?
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
So I sent this over to Elizabeth just a minute ago. The third. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move that we approve the resolution adopting the revised investment policy, but further direct staff, GPA, and the city attorney's office to return to council with options for a future policy amendment, establishing a fourth objective within our policy to ensure investments reflect council priorities. And this should evaluate options for integrating criteria, including sustainability, equity, and the stated priorities of council, while strictly maintaining safety, liquidity, and return as the city's primary and overriding investment objectives. And I would entertain a second.
So do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Popkin has seconded that.
Thank you, Mayor. And very quickly, I don't want to see us, tonight say, oh, we're going to change the way our city investment. I don't really, frankly, want necessarily us to divest from anything, period. I don't want us to, the portfolio is working well. I do think as we take on a new partner in this process, someone who, as we've heard, has experience with this kind of responsible values-based investing in the past, someone who's done it easily and can easily do it, that we have a conversation at some point in the future, not tonight, not asking tonight, but at some point in the future, about how we tie our investments to our council priorities and how we make sure our money is actually, that we're putting out into the world, is doing the things that we as a council would want it to do. That's generally the statement that I'm trying to make here. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries 5-2 with council members Christ and Prieto in opposition. Okay, thank you. We are now on to, thank you. We are now on to item D, Resolution 2026-30. Who was the council member Christ? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I apologize to Kimberly McKee because I was sending her an email, but between my email and her email, we were both out of office, so I just didn't send it. But I do have, this is probably the third time I've seen this IGA agreement, because my third time to come before council. But something has changed since the last time we looked at it. And I think I'm looking at page 110 of the packet, which is D3. And let's see, I sometimes don't earmark where it is in the council communication, but I think that's on the whole IGA. The original intent, I think, of D3, and this has to do with the city providing public safety for events at the special events that the LDDA does. And I think the original intent was that the event would create positive impact on the sales tax, which would kind of compensate the city for the use of public safety. And what we have heard recently from public safety is that they, before all of our growth, had 61 officers, and now after all this explosive growth, they have 62, and they're not able to fully fund. So we're talking about, how do we support public safety a little bit better? And I'm thinking that one of the things we can't afford to do is have public safety put in a lot of overtime and fall further behind in their revenue. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to read my notes, and I wrote in red pen, so terrible. I'm thinking it should be similar maybe to the maintenance expectations, which is on page 111 and number 5 of the IGA, where DDA is billed for public works and engineering and parks and recreation, and also for supervision. Because I'm thinking of more in terms of kind of like the service sharing we do, where, like the airport pays their share to all the city services they use. And I did not know, I was going to ask for your financials just to see if that is even possible for LDDA, but wasn't able to scare those up in the time that I had. So I'm asking you the uncomfortable question is, can we have LDDA and special events cover the cost of traffic control and public safety at those events?
Mayor Hidalgo-Farring, Councilmember Christ, I will say that this was part of the adopted, I can ask Sandy, like a year or two ago of, 2 years ago for city co-sponsored special events.
And I'm aware. I'm saying this is a change, would be a change this year.
Certainly it's not something that we had budgeted for. I will tell you, we have one summer concert this year. Normally we've had 3, so 2 of those are gone. We're only having 1. The Art Walk does not need police because they are not having an alcohol permit. So really in this year, I think it is the one concert, which is this Friday night, and it's a shortened time frame, and then the Colorado Pizza Festival. So those are the two that would have public safety. I guess on the top of my head, I can't answer that right now. I know that since we felt that we were falling under this policy, that's how we had budgeted, but we'd have to look at that. And yeah.
Yeah. We actually had, is it First Fridays? Is that right? The group that came to us about, I don't know, their, yeah. And we actually, out of our council contingency, gave them money for traffic control and public safety. I think it was about 15,000, just my recollection. So I know it can be costly, but I also see that public safety needs to increase their revenue, and apparently we're not getting enough sales tax to do that because the general fund doesn't have enough, public safety fund doesn't have enough, and so we're in that difficult spot where we need to start considering where are we spending public safety, where, how do we reimburse them for their time, and how do we create better revenue streams for them. So any input that you have that might help with that. It sounds like you're not going to have as much use of them.
Correct.
Yeah, so that is helpful right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the things that Kimberly, we talked about before is also the increased use of T-shirt security, where you were doing that for a time.
We still do that.
And
We
they still
hire
do that.
tons of,
Outside security force.
Yeah, so that actually reduces the number of police officers that we were bringing in. So I think there is a history of trying to minimize the number that we need at any given event, and she's offsetting it with the T-shirt security as part of this. And I think the other piece is really the co-sponsored events, because that's really where this is coming from, is the city co-sponsoring the event, which is actually then triggering it. Because if she has an event that we don't co-sponsor with, then she's going to have to pay for all of those other services. So this is just on the co-sponsored events that we're attaching the city's name to.
Yeah. We've heard from public safety last time, and then I heard their presentation again at NGLA, and I thought,
Yeah, and we only hire them because as part of their policies, or some policies, there have to be X amount of officers. So it's not our request. But we understand if that's what they feel that they need.
Well, right, and I think, I forgot about that. We also have other policies within the world that we operate in that says certain events of certain sizes have to then have a certain amount of public safety staff. So that's something that's being driven out of their operations, which is why we tried to augment the number and lower it based on the T-shirt security. So it's mixing two different components.
Okay.
So I'm not talking.
No, I'm sorry.
So how much do you think it would cost you if you had to pay for public safety in the shared events? I'm just trying to put a dollar amount on it so that we can help public safety.
I mean, I don't know if you have that off the top of your head. I would not have that off the top of my head
I would have
for
to
my
look
own
at,
house budget.
what we projected the number
Yeah.
of attendants to be in the officers. And I'll also tell you, it just depends on who they fill it with. And so if they fill it with an officer that's been there for 30 years, it's much more expensive than one that's been there for 2. And so you never know until you get the bill.
Right. That's why I was throwing out that $15,000 figure, because that's what First Fridays asked us for. So I don't know if that compares to some of the shared events. They were asking for traffic control.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't like to make a change where it's going to have a financial impact on LDDA right now at this moment. So maybe this is something that we look at towards the future. But additionally, last week we did direct staff to come up with ideas and how, and I just had lunch with Stephen Schultz earlier today, and looking at what are some creative ways to kind of support public safety and bring down cost, but also invest more in public safety. So I don't know if this is the avenue I would necessarily want to take.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I'd like to bring it up at first reading rather than later on.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead. So now, Councilmember Prieto.
All right, you caught me typing away, Mayor. Okay, so So, Councilmember Diane, I like where you were going previously and talking about our small businesses, and I actually thought a lot about that in this IGA and messaged Kimberly on it as well. And thank you, Kimberly, for answering all my questions so thoroughly. So Diane, I was thinking of kind of shifting the direction you're going and looking at our use of dollars and how to maximize those dollars toward the things that we feel are more like most important. And like one of the things that you've talked about is small business development. And so in speaking about small business development, I do want to say, you know, it wasn't until I read the IGA that I really discovered, one, how much the city contributes to LDDA, it's just overall function, and two, super impressed on how they support their small businesses within their boundaries. And so some of the questions that I had asked Kimberly and kind of the mindset that I was going with, Councilmember Chris, was instead of pooling dollars, how do we maximize those dollars and partner with LDDA and further expand some of those supports to small businesses in our community? Because right now it seems, and Kimberly, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of that support is primarily focused on the businesses within the LDDA district. But when we talk about like the small business development person that attends the chamber once per week, Kimberly, can you confirm if that is open to the broader public of small business owners or just LDDA businesses?
Yeah, it is open to any business in the city of Longmont, the SBDC, and certainly we're always referring anyone that needs that help to their services. The dollars that are generated by the DDA come from property tax and an additional mill levy that's paid only by property owners in the DDA. So by state statute, those dollars have to stay within the boundaries, which is why, yeah, as I said in my email.
Perfect, thank you. And one of my questions to Kimberly was, and especially with my council members who are looking at like, how do we replicate the same type of success in North Maine? And one of my questions to Kimberly was, how do we like expand? Can we phase out and expand, you know, that boundary to really start working with all the businesses along Main Street, but also our small businesses, which we found out recently make up 90% of our businesses here in Longmont, Colorado. And so I just wanted to kind of bring up the point of like, to just our council member Chris was, you know, how do we, and our other council members too, is how do we further expand kind of what LDDA is doing for their small businesses to the broader public and small businesses that may not be within that boundary. And so maybe it's in partnership with LDDA or, you know, working with them to create a model outside of it. I'm hoping as we discuss priorities with our mayor in another session that, you know, small business development and economic development overall is going to be one of those things that we really prioritize here in the coming year. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give a different lens to that, Councilmember Chris, and then also just talk to my other council members about some of the questions I
am going to
about.
interrupt for a minute because I feel like the conversation seems to be deviating away from the resolution itself, and that's what we're voting on. And, you know, really have a more, you know, we can open up a pre-session or look at other means to have a more robust conversation as far as our partnership with LDDA. But I would like to stick with our resolution. I was trying to see if you were going to circle back or, but yeah, so with
No,
that.
I was just complimenting Mayor
Thank
about, you know, how I was impressed with the spending of the dollars and the framework.
Okay, great. Would you like to move or would you like to move?
I'll
Go
move
ahead.
it.
Oh, and so would you like to second it? So we have a motion made by Councilmember Prieto to pass and adopt Resolution 2026-30, and it was seconded by Councilmember Christ. So, okay. So, yeah. Okay. So that carries 6-1 with Councilmember Christ in opposition. The next item that was pulled was item E, the approve the community satisfaction survey plan for summer 2026. Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I just had 3 thematic comments I wanted to offer on this as feedback, and then hopefully we can approve it with kind of that general direction if council largely agrees. When I was reading through kind of the draft plan, the 3 reactions I had. I mean, I had some more nuanced feedback, but the 3 kind of categories were: 1, it felt very adult parent oriented, rather than and less balanced towards our younger adults and teenagers. And so I was hoping that we could maybe expand the focus of the survey a little, expand even some of the very questions that are asked right now, and just make sure that we're capturing inputs from different from younger demographics. That was number 1. Secondly, we get a lot of comments and emails about noise from planes, from trains, from automobiles. Steve Martin would be proud. And I think there's no mention of noise as a quality of life input, and I think it would be really valuable for us to understand kind of en masse when we're doing a more robust community survey, like how many people is this really affecting? And to what extent is this an impact, like stretching this into our community? So that was number 2. And number 3, I had a question maybe for staff, but it's on the comments of, there's some questions about housing in there. And I know we're also doing a robust housing survey over the next couple months. In fact, I think it's going to be wrapped up by June. And so I'm wondering if part of the conversation we had at the retreat on how to do an effective community survey was not to make it too long or too onerous or too detailed, because then you don't get people to participate. And I wonder if we need the housing overlaps in the same way, or how worthwhile it would be to ask some of the housing questions in this survey if we're doing a separate study assessment of our housing needs already. So those are the 3 main comments that I wanted to just share as we kind of refine the community satisfaction survey plan.
And it looks like Sandy Cedar is ready to answer.
Thank you, Mayor.
I was expecting nothing less. Hi, Sandy.
Thanks, Mayor. Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager. Councilmember Popkin, happy to take that feedback. Ask about noise. We'll make sure that the wording is more neutral, and we'll work with Molly to make sure that we don't have duplication of questions.
Thank you. And I don't think it was a neutrality comment on noise. I think it was just, it wasn't mentioned when we had a couple, unless I missed something. But I didn't see it mentioned.
Your first comment about, gosh, you can't even, hello there.
Oh, on the age.
Yes, on the age.
Age
Yes,
demographics.
on the kind of, it was
Wonderful.
Looking like it was parent oriented. So we'll just make sure that the wording is more neutral. Number 1, we'll add noise as an indicator of quality of life. Number 2, and we'll work with Molly to make sure there's no duplication.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. I'll drop you an email as well, Sandy. Thanks.
Thanks. Councilmember Christ and then Prieto.
Thank you, Mayor. So my question has to do with the map. The map does not go far enough north to encompass my neighborhood, and also does not go far enough south. And I just have to tell you that often in my neighborhood, we feel like the city doesn't even know we live there. So not seeing us on the map makes me feel like they really don't know we live there. So I'm just wanting to ask the question, is the map going to include all of our neighborhoods?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy.
Perfect. Oh, I love that. That was easy. Councilmember Prieto.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and I apologize, I'm talking so much tonight. There's some topics that get me going and some I'm like, This one was something, so there's just some feedback around our survey. Thanks for pulling this one, Councilmember Popkin, because I had kind of similar feedback, specifically around the youth portion. So definitely agree. I think we can be a little bit more inclusive of our younger populations and changing verbiage. But I'd also like to see kind of a section focused on like youth or parents of youth. I think there's questions throughout the survey that target like child care and do you have a child? But I feel like it would be more beneficial to have some of those clumped together to really understand like what are the needs of parents around youth, and then what are the needs of some of our youth. So that was some feedback I wanted to provide. Two, just in looking at some of the data collection methods, I read that we are going to have an intern assisting folks with this survey, and I was just curious if this intern would be also attending some of our community events to collect this data, and if this intern is bilingual.
Okay, I think they're deciding who to send down.
Thanks, Mayor.
This is Andy again.
Councilmember Prieto, in talking with Lynn here, one of the things we have geared the survey towards 18 plus. I mean, that's kind of where the survey is geared for, is for adults. So some of those questions that you're seeing are geared potentially towards parents asking about youth activities and things like that. You know, to your other question about the intern, we haven't met her yet, but it'd be great if she's bilingual. Either way, we'll make sure that the survey is translated and double checked by our bilingual team.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it would be beneficial if we did have a bilingual intern, just because that is one of the barriers, specifically amongst folks who are monolingual. One, use of technology, and two, just, you know, language. And so that was one of the things. And then I did want to point out too, we don't have like an annual youth survey that goes out, or biannual. That kind of rolls over and is consistent. So something for council to think about is, would we want to include something like that in one of these types of surveys, create its own survey, just specifically geared toward
And we can
youth?
definitely look at that. But again, we're voting on the customer or community satisfaction survey plan. So this particular document, I don't think it's adding on a youth component to this particular survey. That's not what you're asking?
And
correct?
you may remember from your outreach plan
Yes.
that you will have the opportunity to ask survey questions,
Yes.
like topics that you'd like to see, that we would then survey through your outreach. You may remember the short surveys we're going to do, so we'll make sure that we include youth, but you all will each have your own opportunity to add whatever topics you'd like for those short surveys as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. And then I'll be super quick with my last ones. The survey felt very long, in my opinion. I know that we were trying to steer away from it being super long, and it does feel very long. I feel like some of the accessibility questions were repetitive, and so I'm wondering if we can clump some of those together. I'm not sure, maybe not, but I saw like 3 or 4 that kind of asked the same question. And then last but not least, let's see. No, the other one was just about the map. So yeah, that's all my feedback. I'm not sure at this point if you guys are able.
Yeah, we have
to edit some of that.
Harold, okay.
We
Yeah, go
we
ahead,
have that.
Harold.
We'll look at it. In some cases in the survey, though, you will see different looks at it, because one of the things that we have seen in some of our results is we'll start seeing different answers that contradict each other. So there's a methodology piece in this as
Behind
well,
that.
in terms of
That's
how
what
you
I remember
crosstab
from the
data.
last, yeah.
And so that's a big piece of this as well. But yeah, we'll look at that duplication, but there is some methodology in
Yeah.
terms of trying to figure out where they're going.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to jump in and say. I don't want to, because looking as they sparsed out and provided the results to these surveys, it made sense, and it gave us more detailed information about our demographics, about the type, the individuals that we are servicing here in Longmont. So I totally don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater quite yet.
And I'm sorry, Mayor,
So-
I have one more thing. I was just curious. I had mentioned it before when we first started talking about the satisfaction survey. Will anybody come back to council kind of mid-survey to just let us know?
Thank you.
how things are going, if we're seeing the numbers we're wanting to see versus compared to previously when the survey came back and there was some just some comments around like it not hitting a certain demographic, etc.
Hello, Lynn Yarmy, Manager of Data and Analytics. Yeah, we're happy to bring back a survey update maybe a month into the launch, just to make sure we've got the right demographics that we need, if we need to make any adjustments or essentially report out. We've got high hopes.
Okay. Councilmember Kalkofer, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I love doing surveys. I did notice that it is a very long survey, so it would be interesting to know midway through, like Councilmember Prieto was saying, if we can get some data. And I don't know if you can see if folks started doing the survey but then gave up on the survey, because I am worried that it is long. So it would be nice if the survey is able to figure out who started but never completed it. So then we can figure out how to make it a little bit more accessible. I love surveys, but I would get survey fatigue doing this survey because it is quite long.
Okay, thank you.
And I would say to council, the original surveys used to be quite a bit longer. And so we're trying to, every year we go in through this, is to shrink it down for the very things that people are bringing up.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would like to move item E, number 2, conduct the 2026 survey with additional changes as mentioned by council.
Okay, I'll second that. So the motion has been made by Councilmember Chris, seconded by myself. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries unanimously. We are now on to item F, approve the 7 capital improvement program amendments. We did discuss this at length. Is there anything else you wanted to ask, or would you like to move this?
I was just going to say, having pulled this, I pulled it because it was on topic to the other topic. We discussed everything I wanted to cover there. So unless there are other mics on, I would just make a motion to approve.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Popkin to approve the 7 capital improvement program amendments, and it has, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and we are now, that carries unanimously, and we are now on to item G, accept the Colorado Communities for Climate Action proposed 2026 policy statement. Who pulled that one? It was you, Councilmember Christ.
Hello, Ms. Knobloch. So I intend to make this simple, but the way I feel about this is that the topics are so overarching that I think sometimes the state comes up with strange things that aren't necessarily in alignment with what Longmont's looking at. And I'll give you an example in that I really want us to work on reducing throwaway plastic. And so, one of those things with grocery bags. So then the state came out and said, okay, we're going to get rid of grocery bags, but now we're going to charge 10 cents to the consumer. And I'm like, but that wasn't the actual polluter and from my perspective, in terms of, I think the grocery stores should have had more, what should I say, accountability for that. So I'm just wondering, is there any way we can be more specific? And I don't want to be ultra specific, but more targeted, I guess, would be the word, to what we're really interested in working on for the next year.
Oh, here, go ahead and turn on your.
Okay, there we go. Mayor Hidalgo Faring and Councilmember Chris, Lisa Knobloch, Sustainability Manager and Acting Strategic Integration Officer. Just to clarify, this is the policy statement for Colorado Communities for Climate Action. So it's the statewide lobbying organization to accelerate climate action, of which Longmont is a member. And so the purpose of that group is when state legislation is introduced, that group lobbies on behalf of its members to ensure that our needs and priorities are represented in that specific legislation and in subsequent rulemaking processes as well. I have been the representative for Longmont over the many years that we have been members of this organization. And we first started, we had a very detailed policy position with explanatory language that went along with each of the policy positions within the policy statement itself, and have since evolved over time to streamline and simplify that process to intentionally be more overarching, to guide the organization, to staff and the lobby team when that legislation comes up, to ensure that the high level focus is on those goals and those values and those priorities that we are trying to advance at a state level, and not get overly prescriptive because we are finding that that was actually inhibiting us in having the right guardrails in place for when other legislation came up that we didn't necessarily anticipate. So it has been a long process over time to evolve and simplify and get to this place in particular. What I would say is every year the policy committee and the legislative committee set out priorities for the year based on all of the members of Colorado Communities for Climate Action. And that's where, as a representative, sorry if I'm getting some feedback. That's where, as a representative of Longmont, I bring forward your priorities and help to push those to the top of the list for CC4CA, so that when legislation comes down at the state level, our priorities for Longmont are pushed forward. And then I work with staff and a bunch of folks within the organization to make sure that as that legislation is developed, that our needs and interests are represented in that legislation, so we don't, to the degree possible, have unintended consequences for Longmont. It is a member organization that operates on unanimous consent, so it is representative of almost 50 at this point member jurisdictions across the state. So that is why it is the way that it is currently.
Well, I hear your dilemma. Can we believe that you're keeping track of these details for Longmont and taking what they're presenting to you and applying it in a more practical way in your response to what comes down from the state?
Councilmember Christ, yes, I believe so, yes, and that's part of what, it is my job to make sure that I'm tracking the priorities that come from City Council and from the community as well, and making sure that that's represented.
Okay, well, thank you. And I will move
Well,
item
hold on,
G.
we have other
Oh,
people in the queue now.
I tried to bring up my Zoom and I couldn't see anybody.
Okay. Councilmember Marcy.
Thank you, Mayor. No, you're fine, Councilmember Chris. You're all good. Just a quick question related to the, sorry, I just lost it. The specific change on the language from discouraging to avoiding. The council comment speaks a little bit to the background of that change. Can you just fill me in on why the change was initially wanted, or anything that you can share on that?
Yeah, sure. Mayor Hidalgo Faring and Councilmember Marsing. And before I go on, I just want to, Harold reminded me that our priorities are laid out in our sustainability plan and our climate action recommendations report. So some of that specificity that you spoke to is in there as our guiding documents. Yeah, to that piece, the language of the previous policy statement, which was done and approved by City Council in 2013, included the language of discouraging additional fossil fuel generation. The policy committee wanted to change that to be a more stringent language around avoiding additional fossil fuel generation moving forward. So eliminating, things like retiring coal plants and whatnot, and then avoiding additional fossil fuel generation. When I circulated that with our staff in particular, our colleagues at Longmont Power and Communications preferred having the previous language of discouraging largely to be true to what we are currently laid out within the integrated resource planning process of Platte River Power Authority. And at the same time, since I was able to submit the packet to you all, we had a subsequent policy committee meeting, and there were other member jurisdictions that also wanted to maintain the original language of discouraging fossil fuels rather than avoiding future fossil fuels because of the state that we're in right now. So where it is at right now is that discouraging language. The policy statement itself will be finalized at the June annual meeting, which is June 10th through 12th, which I will be at as a representative for Longmont. So if you all want me to take forward different language than that, I am happy to bring it forward at that meeting for further discussion with the full CC4CA board. Again, it operates by unanimous consent, so if there is a member jurisdiction that does not want to change that, then we all stay with the existing language.
You mentioned other municipality or other municipalities that wanted they wanted to keep the discouraging language. Was that a large enough number that it would be impossible essentially to make a change for an organization operating under unanimous consent like that?
Again, it operates under unanimous consent.
Yeah.
So yeah, if
So,
there's
yeah.
one organization that says they absolutely can't live with that, we definitely are an organization that works by the can you live with this language, not is it the best possible language, do we all love it? It is the culture of that organization, and I think part of the value of that organization. So yes, if one member really feels strongly that language of avoid is not workable for them, then it would be maintained as discourage.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Popkin. Councilmember, oh, you
Sorry.
got it, okay.
Yep, sorry, I was just finding the mute behind
Okay.
the packet. Lisa, we emailed about this briefly, but I just think given all the other questions that have been asked, I just want to clarify with you. When you're representing, when you're in the room with CC4CA, many of the communities there are served by investor-owned utilities. And we are fortunate in many ways that we are not, and have more direct control over some of the over virtually all of the utilities, with the exception of natural gas for heating that we use. And so I'm curious, how does CC4CA and you and our staff navigate the fact that we run the electric utility in these types of conversations at the policy level when those might be different?
Yeah, Mayor Hidalgo-Ferring and Councilmember Popkin, this is a great question that is one of the interesting nuances of Colorado Communities for Climate Action working on a state level, when the vast majority of member communities and communities within the state are served by investor-owned utilities. As you mentioned, we are incredibly lucky to have our own municipal electric utility among other utilities as well. We are among a small cohort within member jurisdictions of CC4CA that are what we refer to as munis. CC4CA is the staff and the lobby team as well are incredibly attuned to the unique needs of municipal utilities. And when legislation comes up that might have unintended consequences specifically for municipal utilities, they are very proactive about reaching out in particular to that small cohort of communities to ensure that they are getting our perspective. And they often really look to us for that guidance, and that's often represented then in their lobbying and their advocacy on our behalf. There are a number of instances in which state legislation only affects investor-owned utilities and not municipal utilities. So that is something that comes up, quite a bit through the PUC and whatnot. And they do also track pretty closely the positions that Platte River Power Authority and organizations like CAMU are also taking to understand when there may be potential misalignment with where CC4CA was intending to go and where some of those other organizations are standing in terms of different positions on different legislation that might be coming down, and having really intentional conversations with those communities.
Great. Thank you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So go ahead, Councilmember Christ, if you wanted to move the item. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I move acceptance of consent agenda 9G.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Christ. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, and it was moved by Councilmember Marcin. Heard him right before I saw the two. Okay, so seeing no one in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Did you get, it was Councilmember Christ? Yeah, okay. Did it pop up on yours?
No.
Well, mine's just, I've got the spinning wheel of death right now. Here we go. Okay, Alex, we're waiting on you. Oh, thumbs up. Okay, I just saw your hand blurred. I'm like, what finger are you giving us? Okay, that carries unanimously. I just saw the blur and I was like, whoa. Okay, so we are now on to general business, recess as Longmont City Council and convene as Board of Directors of the Longmont General Improvement District. Number one, may I have a motion to recess as the Longmont City Council and convene as the Board of Directors for the Longmont General Improvement District, number one? Okay, so the motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Marcin. Let's go ahead and vote. Trying. Oh, and he's got a thumbs up. Okay, so that carries unanimously. And so now we'll be looking at Resolution LGID 2020-2601, a resolution for the Board of Directors of the Longmont General Improvement District. Number one, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Longmont Downtown Development Authority for general administration services. Are there any questions from council? Just the same ones. Okay. Okay. So may I have a motion to pass Resolution LGID 2026-01? So I'll go ahead and move it. Do I have a second? Okay. I'm going to call Councilmember Kalkofer. I haven't seen it. So it's been moved by myself, seconded by Councilmember Kalkofer. Seeing no one in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Councilmember Popkin, we don't see your vote, and it's a thumbs up. So he's a yay. Okay, so that carries 6-1 with Councilmember Christ in opposition. And may I have a motion to adjourn as the Board of Directors of the Longmont General Improvement District number 1 and reconvene as Longmont City Council? So it's been made, the motion has been made by Councilmember Christ, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Let's go ahead and vote. And if you want, we can do a verbal vote. Okay, let's go ahead and do a verbal vote. I see 2 on Zoom. Councilmember, there you go. So all those in favor, aye. Okay, opposed. So that, really, you're opposed? Okay. Okay, well, that carries then 6-1 with Councilmember Marcin in opposition. He wants to stay talking as, GID. Okay, so we are, so thank you very much. We are now at final call, public invited to be heard. Is there anyone in the audience who would wishes to speak? No? Okay. I'm looking at you. Okay. So seeing no one, we're on to mayor and council comments. Are there any comments from council? Nuh-uh, no way. None. Okay. So I'm going to move us along before anybody changes their mind. City manager.
No comments, Mayor. Council.
Very good. City attorney.
No comments, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.
I am impressed.
Woo.
And you waited another.